Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, esports fans, and just gamers alike, to the Overwatch Carbon Series, brought to you by Carbon Entertainment. Gil Frost here, and after a very relaxing weekend, I'm very excited to be back on the air with all of you for more Overwatch action. How are you guys feeling, ZP and Hex?
It's been a great week in Overwatch. What more can you say? Not only do we have a new team pickup here where Hammers Esports, which was an org unto its own, has been picked up by Luminosity Gaming. Now we have 2 squads there. But more importantly, though we won't be seeing it tonight, there is a new hero in Overwatch that we should be seeing very soon in Orisa. So it's been a good week.
A new hero, most importantly, with the ability to pull people off edges, which is one of my favorite things that happens in all of Overwatch. Whether it's Fair, whether it's Lucio, we're going to add another booper to the mix.
That's potentially another Boop of the Week candidate. Keep an eye on that, Chris, please. Well, last week had a lot of surprises, and with a new hero coming up, I can't imagine it's going to be any different, even though we're not going to see it this week. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff that did happen last week as we are going to be going into Week 3. So Week 2 saw a variety of different games. We don't have any repeats yet. Today's going to be our first rematch. But to start off, Hammers was able to pick up a victory against Luminosity, or LG. LG Classic.
Get ready.
Classic,
they're known
as I'll
now.
call them. LG Loyal. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we should clear this up. So LG has become LG Loyal, and their evil compatriots now are the former Hammers roster, now known as LG Evil. So we're gonna struggle our way through this on the desk today. I feel bad for you guys doing it in game. I mean, at least maybe we'll have it on the screen.
Let's be real. No one ever feels bad for us.
Yeah.
That's not a lie.
There's no sympathy in this
So you've been
world.
reading Twitch chat, I see. Well, anyway, so yeah, Hammers was able to pick up a victory against Luminosity, LG. Loyal, goodness gracious. Then Complexity, this was like the closest game we had last week, and they were 3-2 against Renegades, giving Renegades their first loss. So we're not going to see them today, but really excited to see Complexity. Outside of that, Team Liquid still struggling. Hammers was able to beat Immortals 3-1, and we're going to see a repeat of that today. And then Renegades was able to pick up victory against Luminosity Classic, a.k.a. LG Loyal, and then Immortals was able to pick up a victory against Team Liquid. So let's see where that leaves the standings right now. The standings as it is coming into Week 3 is Hammers still dominating on top. That is LG Evil. Renegades is going to be in second, as they did drop a game last week. Complexity and Immortals both 2-2 coming into Week 3, and they are both having some difficult games. They've got a lot to prove. LG Loyal and Team Liquid are rounding out the bottom of the pack, and this may be one of their last chances.
Well, I think it becomes very obvious why LG wanted to sign another team, and not only that, but to sign a team like former Hammers, who has been unstoppable since they made their debut into Overwatch, formerly Bird Noises, but they haven't really even run into great contenders against them, and now LG gets to put their name on the top team in this tournament.
If not for the copyright issues, they also could have called them LG Good, and it totally would have been fine as far as accurately describing the team, because they have been very good in this tournament here so far. Now, they can't do that because that's another company's slogan to some extent, but still, it's been a very good run here for LG Evil, and of course, it's a squad formerly known as Hammers, and there's no reason to think it's going to stop. And at this point, they would have to fall off the map to not make the playoffs here in the OCS.
The other side of it, is that LG Loyal is fighting for their lives right now. They could have very easily been 0-4 coming into this. They gutted it out. I think it was our first night ever against Immortals. They had a reverse sweep. They took everything they had, but still very low on the totem pole.
Well, Hex, you see what loyalty gets you.
And while the Luminosity organization is making some changes, we also have Team Liquid, who's backs up against. Well, before we get into that too much, because we are going to talk about them at length, let's just take a step back. We know there's a new hero coming out, but there were some changes that recently happened. Maybe even some more changes coming up here. But let's just do one final check-in. 1 week's worth of Bastion play. Where do we think Bastion's at? Overhyped? Is all the hype real? Like, where are we at with that?
To be determined. I don't think there's enough of a sample size at all here. Clearly what we saw is that some teams are very comfortable running with the Bastion. Other teams ran it, didn't like what they saw. We're going to have to see a mix here between the teams that like running it versus the teams that don't like running it to get a better idea. For example, when we see Renegades play anyone else, we'll get a better idea of what's going on there. I think it's just too early to tell, especially after an immediate patch where sometimes it does take the meta a while to shake out.
I think my initial response was that it's absolutely been overblown because all I heard, and this is not only from the lower levels in the community and posts and this and that, all I heard from high-level players was, we're just going to see Bastion v. Bastion all the time. That's all anyone's playing in PTR. And it's possible that people only played it in PTR to test it out and see how it was going, but that is not what we saw. We saw some games with it, opened with it, then teams eventually got away from it. So I don't think the Omnic crisis is necessarily upon us.
Yeah, we still have yet to see how viable it is. We know that it is at the very least viable, and it's not too earth-shattering, at least not in the games that we have seen. Teams are still trying to play around with it. We saw, I think most of the matches we saw that first day, everyone started playing Bastion, and then one at a time, they would just stop playing it. You know, almost like, okay, maybe we can back off here a little bit. Well, let's take a look at our first matchup of the day. It is going to be Luminosity versus Team Liquid, and as we had mentioned, that's Luminosity LG Loyal versus Team Liquid. And as we had mentioned, these are two teams with their backs against the wall. LG Loyal has one victory in their belt that they can at least try to leverage moving forward. But with only 10 games throughout the entire season, at 0-4, Liquids, they need to make something happen.
Well, I would say this for LG Loyal. 2 words: must win. If they lose this matchup here, Complexity is going to have potentially an insurmountable lead on them going forward. And it's been fortunate here for LG because they started out week 1, of course, with the surprise reverse sweep of Immortals, where Immortals was 2-0. They weren't able to finish them off. LG found a way to come back in. But now for LG Loyal, you look back at it, their victory over Immortals is more an aberration rather than their actual consistency here. And they're really fighting to stay in this.
Well, let me talk about Team Liquid, as someone who's been on note of record as always expecting Team Liquid to do better than they have. At this point, it's hard to say, but they might just be playing for pride, because unless something drastically changes, they're not going to run the table and go 6-4, which is probably what it's going to take to get into the playoffs. But they can play spoiler, and these are veterans who have played games for a long time, so there is pride on the line. If anyone's going to be fighting hard, it's going to be them. Rafa should be back on the team, as we talked about him, one of the greatest minds in Overwatch.
Well, for this, I'm actually going to go a step further and say I think there's something more tangible on the line here than pride. Yeah. It's actually keeping their job because, of course, the way pro gaming organizations work, you evaluate the potential of your squad. So for Team Liquid right now, clearly they have to be wondering what the higher-ups at Team Liquid are thinking. Do they start looking for new players? Do they look for a new squad? What do you do in this situation? So for Team Liquid, this is more or less a point where even if they can't get into the playoffs, if they could get victories over some of the remaining teams, maybe steal one off LG Evil or otherwise, they keep the hope alive that they can improve and get to the level of the very top teams. So I would say more so than anything else, this is very important for Liquid to keep their spots with Liquid.
Well, this is also not a reunited situation where they're getting to finals, they're getting very close. They're never really even that close. I think one of their top finishes is like 3rd in some lower tier tournament, 4th and 5th, all the way across the board. So they have to show us something, or as you mentioned, signs of improvement. I think adding Shatter was really good. They had some moments there. Rafa had to miss a couple days, which wasn't ideal. Grego stepped in and did his best, shot calling on 2 days' notice, but that's not going to work out really well. But also, bottom line, you don't want to 0-4 an entire tournament, and right now they're 0-4. You got to get that 0 off the board. No one likes a goose egg.
No, and as someone who also has believed in them, I still believe in Team Liquid. We're going to see if they can pull it out here. As they are looking more cohesive. They've got all the pieces now. They have been missing some pieces in weeks 1 and 2. But let's talk about LG Loyal. Let's take a look at their roster, break it down just a little bit before we get into game. And here it is: Icefeld, Ube, Spree, Super Pluke, which in this game we can actually call him Super Pluke, Hidan, and Mineral. So any standouts as we're looking at that roster there?
One thing that I think is funny here, because I don't think it exists on any of the other rosters, but there is an overlap there. You look at Icefeld, Ube, Tracer. Now, for most teams, it's not a big deal because they have defined roles in every team composition, but LG, Loyal, they are all over the place, and you have to think that that has had some degree of effect on them in causing their relative lack of success so far in the OCS.
The only heroes you can definitely count on to always be on the same things are their supports. Their supports, I did speak to him. I've been saying it wrong for a while, but I did finally get the inside info from the man himself. ZP was right. It is Hedan. Hedan. Yeah. I'm going to try to retrain myself. I've been calling him Hedan for months and months now.
99% sure it's named after the Naruto character. So vote hi-yo in chat, guys. Let's hear it.
Why would I know that?
That is a good point. You've never watched any anime or any cartoons. You did not have a childhood.
All right. Regardless, but their supports are where you're going to get the most consistent play out of them. He's always been a top tier support. He can hit the sleep darts that he needs to save his team from getting wiped. Mineral plays a pretty good Symmetra when he gets onto it as well. So they've been the most consistent parts. But I guess we've been saying the same thing about Luminosity Loyal for a long time. Where are they going to figure out roles? When is that going to happen?
Yeah, and one player that has been consistent, but is in kind of an awkward spot, is actually our player to watch coming into this week, and it's going to be Spree. So he is someone that does have a little bit more of a finite pool of really Zarya, Pharah, and then he'll venture out a little bit outside of that, but he's the one that seems to kind of carry this team. And I don't know if he's going to be like a shot caller, but where he goes and if he succeeds, it seems like they find a little more success.
Well, you said the word inconsistent there for a moment, but I would actually argue quite the contrary, and I think Spree has been the most consistent person on this LG Loyal squad throughout the course of the tournament, especially when on Zarya, but also when they have found ways to pierce through. He's had some great showings on Pharah. Now, that part is probably a little bit more inconsistent, and yet overall, I think Spree's body of work, probably the thing that's been keeping LG in games relatively close, because the thing that's worth knowing about LG is that they have been able to take most maps or series to at least 4. They haven't suffered too many 3-0s, but and the games have been somewhat close in turn, but at the end, you take a look at their L's that they've piled up, they only have 1 win to their name.
It might be time to throw meta and compositions out the window and just put everyone on their best hero and just maybe run and hope to get big bangs going. I think the team is remarkably better when Spree is running the Zarya. I think he gets a lot of respect from everyone in this tournament that he is the top tier Zarya. You put him with Tracer, Icefall and the Tracer, hope to get those big bangs, those giant plays. As we've seen, they're very good at those set plays. I think you can still run your set plays on hybrid maps where you jump in and maybe you've got a Pharah going and everything like that. But when it all falls apart again, just go to your best heroes. Let Spree play Zarya, let Icefall play Tracer, then Ube can play Roadhog. I think he's also a great Roadhog. So maybe just kind of throw out these notions of we have to run dive here, we have to run dive there. The time for that is gone. You're 1-4. It's time to play your best heroes.
Yeah, so we're going to see what they have to bring, but let's take a look at Team Liquid. We talked about them a little bit earlier, but here is their roster coming in. We've got AZK, Shatter, 2K, ID, Messer, Dehang, and Rafa. And man, if we're looking back at this, let's just take a look at the inconsistency. So week 1, they didn't have Shatter 2K. Week 2, they didn't have Rafa. How do the fact that all of them are together, how does that actually impact coming into week 3?
Well, let's be clear. Going to week 3, they don't have Grego's fabulous hair. I mean, I don't know what he puts into that, but it is clearly some of the best hair at Overwatch. He probably should be on Rise Nation. In all seriousness here, obviously, instability on a team hurts. It hurts pretty badly. You take a look at Complexity before they had settled things back in week 1. They didn't look very good. Then they did, of course, get new pickups in Decop and Bishu. They've done far better. For Team Liquid here, I think not having Rafa, who was in the shot-calling role in the Team Liquid games beforehand after he swapped to Lucio, not having him last week definitely hurt them. So now we'll see where they're at now with potentially better shot calling and also a very high-end DPS in Shatter 2K. Maybe that'll put them over the edge to act as spoiler here to LG Loyal.
Maybe, and it has to be, because let's just look at this. This is team ranked 6 and team ranked 5. If you're 6 and you can't beat 5, who else can you beat? And also, if you're 5 and you lose to 6, now you're new 6. So this is like bottom of our rankings here. A lot on the line, despite how it might actually play out in the tournament. But as you said, probably fighting for jobs. And Liquid has to show that they're going to get better and better and better. Also, Luminosity Loyal, now that your organization picked up another team, you have to wonder how resources are going to be split like that. There has to be a question, at least in their mind.
Maybe. I mean, the other way of looking at it, I'm not sure how LG is handling this, but the smart way of handling it would be to look at how the Korean teams handle this here and go with the entire sister team setup, because now you can scrim the other team, you can try out new things, you can have them under one unified leadership going, look, we're going to be trying 5 DPS. Not that we think it's going to work, but we want to try it for a scrim set, and both teams, you better be on board with it regardless. So you have a little bit more power as an organization to test new strategies, and really foster decent communication between both teams and trying to find a way to play the game better on both sides. Now, whether or not that works in an NA environment, we'll see. It's more untested in North America than it is in other regions like Korea.
Well, LG Loyal and LG Evil are a science experiment that we're going to have to watch brew as we're going to be continuing on in the Overwatch Carbon Series. Which is honestly a little bit of a science experiment in and of itself. It's like, let's see how these teams operate over the course of this time. But let's take a look at the player to watch for Liquid, and it is going to be the leader, so to speak, or at the very least a shot caller for Team Liquid. It is going to be Rafa, and he's going to be trying to up the tempo coming back into week number 3. Any final thoughts on Rafa? What is he going to bring to this team that maybe they could find victory?
Well, for Rafa, you have to look at him and always think that there is a lot of untapped potential in what Rafa could be bringing to the team. Historically, he is one of the smartest FPS players to ever live. He won plenty of Quake championships off of his world-renowned intelligence. So you would think, in theory, that you have someone like him on shot calling, it could work out very well. This is a very talented player, period. He hasn't quite found the success he's been looking for in Overwatch so far, but you would think that shot calling would be up his alley. We just have to see the results of that, which thus far we have not seen.
Now he might have the pieces more to work with, though. I think the addition of Shatter is absolutely huge, as Genji has been so important for all these teams, and also his other players are playing better. AZK is playing better, so you can have the best shot calling in the world, and if you don't have the execution, it's not going to work out, and vice versa. You can be the best mechanically skilled player in the world, but if you're not playing with your team and the game sense and shot calling isn't there, it doesn't work out. So, same old story. Can Liquid put it all together? Can they all finally have good games together when it matters?
Yeah, and looking at them last week, the reasons that they lost, it seemed to me, and this is the believer in me, it seemed to me cohesion-based. They were out of position. They were misusing ultimates. Because when they were making really high mechanically skilled plays, Genji pulled out some serious blades there, Shatter 2K, and was able to pick up victory. Well, let's see if they can do that on map number 1. The home team is Liquid, and they have chosen Kings Row for map number 1. Any reason why they would want to take LG Loyal to Kings Row?
I suppose you could run Pharah here. You could run a variety of different things here. So I would say maybe they're Pharah, but also they've always had very solid 76 play. It's the guy with the icon of a Soldier 76 there, AZK, has been playing Soldier 76 on this map for a very long time. However, LG Loyal has looked good on this map too. So I think it's definitely more like we feel comfortable here. Not that LG Loyal is bad on this map.
And this is where I hope Team Liquid has a good plan for how to deal with LG Loyal's first point defense here, because that has been among the strongest that LG Loyal has shown throughout the course of the tournament. Of course, Icefelt being near unkillable in the back line at points. LG Loyal, of course, hasn't always kept up that level of performance, but very well could be something that Team Liquid is going to have to look for here. And I wouldn't really expect LG Loyal themselves to differ their first point defense from what we've seen earlier in the tournament.
Yeah, the only other X factor is Bastion. That's the only other change that we've seen. And Icefelt, actually, I think was the second most Bastion oriented player behind Mangachu last week. Do you think that Team Liquid thought about that coming into this, or is Bastion kind of a non-factor?
I mean, we're going to find out one way or another. Here we are as we look for teams to lock in their rosters here. I think there's a whole lot of differing opinions in the scene right now as to where Bastion stands, buff or no buff. Of course, he is getting nerfed again from the looks of PTR. Jeff Kaplan commented that, saying it might be a little bit too strong. So we'll see where that heads out here. But take a look at this Team Liquid defense here, Hex. They did show Bastion for a brief moment, but ID immediately scrapping that idea, going to 76 instead.
Maybe a little more consistent also helps them run a more changeable roster and composition. When you run a Bastion, everyone has to be on page Bastion. So you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket. This way, everyone can run a little bit different. No one's forced into a role they don't want to run. And it looks like they're going to run mostly a very dive-oriented defense.
I was really hoping you were going to say eggs in one Bastion. That just would have been top tier.
Man.
But the opportunity has been lost. But look at this defense here. It is going to be more of a dive defense. There is no Reinhardt, so they have no way of dealing with poke coming in. They have no real way of dodging hooks. They just have to dive on the back line and look to take out LG Loyal before LG Loyal gets a chance to begin.
So we'll see where LG Loyal wants to set up here. Sometimes they're just going to go through a poke. A lot of teams will also rotate through right side and try to get in that way and take the high ground. It does seem like that is their plan. They will have people waiting up there for them, and they're going to evacuate the top side, give it up.
Ube right now, of course, looking for hooks. Doesn't have to worry about shield getting in his way, but Liquid, they're not giving easy targets. They are fully spread out here. It's about as anti-death ball as you can get. Nube's just making this long walk here, eventually gonna run into someone, and he does have ID in his sights. Goes for the hook, does not connect. The rest of LG Loyal trying to come in through the front, but they lose 2 immediately as Rafa takes out 2 on Lucio of all people.
Well, we've heard Rafa is a very, very aggressive Lucio. I don't really even like Ube going for that hook. I think even had it connected, jump hooks don't work anymore. That's some 1.0 stuff, and we're firmly in 2.0 as Liquid with the full-on cleanup late as Shatter takes down the remainder after Lucio gets 2 kills early in that fight.
I mean, the clear thing there is that LG definitely looked a little bit mystified as they were moving in, looking for that engagement. They weren't able to get anything that they wanted, and Liquid just got them by surprise from the flank. So far, dive defense from Liquid looking pretty good to start things out, and they're letting LG Loyal come to them. And there they go. Next fight's underway. Rafa gets hooked down by Ube. A little bit too aggressive on Lucio, perhaps. And now, LG Loyal with a real opportunity. Ube makes it 3 kills. We'll see if Liquid can pull this back. With Shatter going down immediately after drawing Dragon Blade, probably not going to happen. And the question is, Hex, was Rafa out too far?
Very likely, that is his MO. Also, just some mistakes from both sides, as that is a nice staggered kill onto ID there. AZK ended up dying to his own pulse, but I'm not sure if he got knocked down or something those times, but some unforced errors is going to allow LG Loyal to take control of this point.
The thing that strikes me is that this might be Ube's game to win or lose right now, Hex, just based on the idea that he doesn't have a consistent shield presence in front of him, which means he's going to be getting more hook opportunities.
So it might not be the right composition to run against Ube, as he's proved it. They're still running 2 flankers, and Hook is a longer cooldown now, but still very effective at taking down Tracers and Genjis, especially at the highest level. Could be holding that hook to really shut down a Genji ultimate if they want to, as they try to roll in.
Ube immediately taking down AZK, but does pay for it with his life. So 5v5 going into this next fight. Icefeld just hanging in the back, does have Tac Visor. Probably doesn't want to force it, would want Edan to back him up here with an ambush, but no. Tac Visor going to come out as Team Liquid tries to dive in, but it's ID with a Nano Visor of his own, counter-firing back in. And with Icefeld going down, Liquid in a pretty good chance of holding back Loyal here.
Really nice combination there to throw in the Winston on the Primal Rage, get him that 1,000 health. The moment I saw Mezzer jumping in, I was very worried, but he was able to keep himself alive. And then it causes so much chaos, knocking around shields and then getting all the value. Here comes the Sound Barrier.
That was a very on-point Sound Barrier from Rafa, able to save ID, and yet it doesn't matter because the ball from Loyal is still on there. They take out 4 anyways, so in theory it was an on-point Sound Barrier, but Loyal immediately there with the follow-through, going to make this a clean sweep. So I respect the timing, but it still wasn't enough. And the only reason why the Sound Barrier had to be used like that, Hex, is that it was the Sleep Dart which set up the hook.
Yeah, I completely agree. What I want to see more from, though, right now is AZK. He's on Tracer. They're running triple tank. You should essentially be able to farm this for Pulse Bomb after Pulse Bomb. He had 1 and got himself down, and he's been killed the last couple times early, so he hasn't had a second yet.
Spree right now looking for a Graviton to put Loyal on the right track here. Moving into the back end, drop the grab, pulls in 2. It's a modest Graviton, and we'll see if the fall through is there. Loyal going in even harder, dropping the Sound Barrier, moving into Team Liquid, and they do take down Mezar and Shatter after a little bit of a dicey beginning. So 2 unanswered kills here by LG Loyal, and Hex, they should be able to get this here, especially now with ID going down.
Well, some skull out there from Rafa, but you are correct, sir. They will be able to get it. This triple tank has seemingly mystified Team Liquid ever since the very first fight. I don't know if this is the right composition to be running against it, but yeah, AZK will finally switch. He is not at his best Tracer game, rather. Sometimes you have to get warmed up, but he's going to go on to a Roadhog instead.
Well, Ube has been too damaging on a Hog of his own here. I feel like Liquid is looking at that going, look, he's doing too much. AZK, can you Hog as well? Now going to the next fight, you do have Dragon Blade up, and here comes Shatter. Moving in over the top, diving in gracefully, looking for that backline kill. Not a no! Gets a Helix rocket in his face instead. Shatter getting absolutely nothing. ID trying to put back with a Nano Visor, and yet his team is dead all around him, and suddenly he's getting whole hogged into the corner. Rough placement here for ID. Still alive, but hook, Sleep Dart, good night to him, and suddenly LG Loyal on the verge of saying a particularly fast time here.
They're flying. Icefeld's looking for this closeout ultimate. It might be the flank that he's looking for. No need for him to be out there now as his tanks are getting free push, but he's got Tactical Visor. Here comes on the flank.
Nano Visor on the way. Oh, it's a sleep! The Sleep Dart coming out here from Zahang, going to put an end to that immediately, and yet will it be enough? It's still 3 kills here from LG Loyal, who needed that ultimate combo anyways, as Team Liquid just not able to convert the kills they need here on the point. They have a little bit of delay coming out here from ID, but is literally ID versus everyone here, and making solid for a little while, but not that long. Mezar trying to bring it back on top point, and Hex, this is looking very bad here for Team Liquid.
Well, they've got a lot of bodies out here, though, so if they can get a couple kills, they should be able to bring it back. Spree fully charged, trying to get some damage going. He's going to grab, and that is 5 kills, and no one able to dash out to stall out that cart.
Certainly rough there, especially that last fight where you open up by sleeping the enemy soldier who has 2 ultimates invested into it, and you're not able to get it done. Now, I would say the biggest difference between this Team Liquid of today and the Team Liquid we saw from last week is that that was a very quiet game from AZK.
And Shatter. I don't think either of them did much, which, again, this is the Liquid conundrum. You know who had good games there? To hang, always not surprising. Rafa showed up pretty big. Mez didn't make any mistakes, and when you're running solo tank, that's as much as you can ask. And ID played well. But then they have 2 pieces who didn't quite live up to snuff.
Right, and the Rafa thing I think was a mixed bag there. I do think he gets a little bit too aggressive on Lucio. Like, he's clearly was not giving Ube a whole lot of respect in the very beginning. It's not that often that you see a Lucio as the first hook pick-off in competitive games. I mean, it does happen, but for Rafa to go down there, I think sometimes he just gets a little bit over aggro still, which takes a while to get used to. I mean, he has just swapped up roles.
I just expected more out of AZK's pulse bombs. I think maybe I'm focusing on it because early on I think he did end up dying to his own. But with 3 tanks out there, especially a Roadhog, you should be having bombs up more often. He didn't get a single pulse bomb kill that game, period.
It was a tough beginning, and there's no other way of putting it here. And now for Team Liquid, it does put more pressure on them. Not only, Hex, do they need to complete the map, but if they want a chance of winning it outright without it going to a tiebreaker, they need to complete the map with a time of at least 1 minute and 1 second remaining. Or no, they have to remain with any time remaining on the clock, period. But if they don't get a time remaining on the clock, if it's 0-0 and they complete, then they don't get another opportunity to try and flip it back over.
Glad you know the rules, because I clearly do not. Well, ID for the moment on the offensive Widowmaker. Maybe they need something like that, but oftentimes you see Widow just try to take a shot here and then maybe switch off. I thought he had a good 76. Nothing really out of line on the defense either, as they're running the exact same composition they ran on offense. Sorry, switch that. Offense versus defense.
And for LG Loyal, of course, they're going to be running Ice Belt in the back on 76, and why wouldn't they? This has been one of the compositions that LG Loyal has been consistent on that has been good for holding first. But I will note, Hex, that they're holding first relatively more aggressively than we've seen in the past, right up here at the gate, making Liquid pay for any pressure they want put in. But Liquid with a heavy dive offense, they can really punish them.
Yeah, they are, but so far not jumping in just yet, as they're just fighting right outside the gate. A lot of chip damage coming down, but you'd think with composition-wise, Loyal should be able to sustain that a little bit better, just much bigger health pools. A jump in comes from Mezar, though, pressuring down Icefall. He's getting so much heals.
He's getting a lot in the way of heals, but it is Liquid with the advantage here. AZK in the back line, causing disruption from the LG Loyal side. Both teams down 2 players right now, but this is always difficult for a defense on King's Run. Here comes AZK. It's a pulse, or nano boosted Tracer. Pulse bomb on the Ube takes him out immediately. And for now, this is going to be all Liquid needs to clear the point. AZK with a much better opening here on offense than he had on defense.
Which is why I was willing to call it a warm-up round. It just happens to be that way with these high aim-intensive characters. Sometimes you didn't get warm-up that you needed to get in. Bots in the practice range are no substitute for real life, but as you mentioned, a much better opening for AZK.
And now for Team Liquid, this is a good opportunity where they will have a little bit more momentum going in. Shatter didn't quite have the most impressive Dragon Blades in the last round, Hex, but this is a chance potentially for him to get a little bit of redemption as well.
Absolutely. He got shut down a couple times with the Dragon Blade, but probably just going to take it slow. Again, I love when teams are doing this. If they're going to give it to you, take it for free. Here it comes.
Well, Shatter moving in right after the engage from Mezar. Going to be rolling right into a Sound Barrier, though, so doesn't get anything done with this Dragon Blade. Instead, just eats Ice Belt's Tac Visor instead. So they draw up the Sound Barrier with the Dragon Blade at the very least. It's not the worst, but the odds of them bringing this fight back pretty low. Luckily for them, they are right near their spawn.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if LG Loyal wants to be right near their spawn, although they haven't been the most aggressive when it comes to spawn camping. Not in the realm of Renegades and Hammers, at least.
Well, there's definitely multiple tiers of spiciness in Overwatch for spawn camping. There's Standard, which is not at all. Then you have Hammers, and then you have Selfless, which is just like the 3 chili peppers by the side immediately in your face.
Yeah, you know where I stand on that. I had Pad Thai with 0 spice and still struggled.
Well, the Graviton does come in from LG Loyal, and they're holding this pretty far up still, and it works out. They take down both Rafa and Mez immediately, and they're going to be keeping Team Liquid back, stopping them from really getting any traction here in second thus far.
Absolutely. This has been very good on the defense. If we had the scoreboard, it'd probably be something like 12-2 over the last couple of fights. Have lost very little when they're engaging on defense. They also will have an Earth Shatter up. One of the benefits of running triple tanks is you generally have 2 CC ultimates, 2 of the best ultimates in the game.
Well, for Liquid, they have to find a way of just getting through this early part uncontested. AZK, nowhere close to a pulse bomb, but is going to be coming in from the flank to try and draw attention to the back. The big punching power here is going to come from ID, holding on to the tack visor, waiting for it. And LG Loyal, I think they noticed that something's up. They're actually giving a lot of room here, the Team Liquid, and Team Liquid doesn't know how to react.
Oh, AZK gets found on the flank. The Earth Shatter came down. ID in just desperate response, trying to get this tack visor going. He's getting healed up finally after Post being naded, gets 3 kills, brought it back.
LG Loyal went in very hard after getting that early pick off on AZK. The problem is that Team Liquid did not back down. They went back in even harder, and because there was nowhere to hide behind Super Fluke there because he was already in, ID was able to pick off 3 with the tack visor, so it worked out pretty well for Team Liquid, even if somewhat unplanned in execution.
Speaking of nowhere to hide, Liquid now has a shield to hide behind in Mez. He is built up very close to an Earth Shatter, could be closing down this next point as they come in for it. Taking the right angle, there will be one more fight on second point.
Nezar, of course, holding on to that Earth Shatter right now, looking for his opportunity. Gonna get it, Earth Shatter, knocking down 3. That was unfortunate for LG Loyal. They had way too many people on the open, not behind the shield, and Mezar punishes them for it dearly, as Liquid now on the verge of setting a potentially equally fast time that LG Loyal did. In fact, if they were to do it on this first run here, Hex, it would be faster.
Absolutely. AZK with his pulse bomb ready now for this next push. He is looking for someone in the back line, just trying to keep eyes on them. Most of the players on Liquid have straight up had better games here. They are going to have to push into a tactical visor, which will likely get the boost if they crack this shield. Shield wars will be commencing.
Well, this is where AZK is being a little bit sneaky here, looking for his opportunity to come in from the back and just pick off one person, or even just apply pressure to the Reinhardt. How this pulse bomb goes down immediately will be interesting, but Loyal, they're taking the initiative. They move in, Spree gets picked off by that early pulse bomb, and suddenly here comes Team Liquid. 5v5 right now on the cart. 4v4. It's a scrappy fest here, but ID coming in, has the nano visor, moving on to the payload and looking for targets, and everyone else from LG Loyal just running for cover.
Well, he does get pinned out there, so not the best area so far in this map for soldiers to be using their tactical visor. We saw on the other side too, Iceball gets shut down as well. It kind of devolving now into a scrappy brawl. Mez is getting back on the cart. Rafa with a kill onto Ube.
Well, here comes the graviton from LG Loyal, picks up 3. The sound barrier going to mitigate a lot of the damage there, as we see Mezar going in even deeper and finds Super Fluke off that charge. So Liquid off the sound barrier from Rafa, now reversing the tide of battle in their favor. 4 kills, 5 kills to 0 off the sound barrier, and Team Liquid in a great position here to cap out King's Row here and pretty much make it even.
Look much better on this side of the ball than the other side. Mineral comes in, takes down Mezar. That means no shields down, no bodies on the cart. Spree looked to be very close, but not quite on there. That's unfortunate.
You know, they changed their name from Luminosity to LG Loyal, not Luminosity to Cloud9. just so we're clear.
Never misses a chance to call out previous foibles from different teams.
It was so iconic when it happened in Apex. That's gonna take a little while for that to go away, but
it's also happened to Liquid recently. What was that, last Tuesday on Eichenwald?
It's interesting. It feels like it's happening with more frequency across the scene, where for whatever reason, teams get so wrapped up in how they're going to initiate another team that sometimes you just forget about the point. Not really an excusable mistake in professional Overwatch, and yet it does happen.
I've typed many a times into the Overwatch chat that I swear I was on the point, guys, and I wasn't. I know I wasn't. Regardless, that was very good for Liquid, and the difference there, in my opinion, it's not really deep diving. They got better play out of AZK. Shatter still, I think, has room for improvement there. Getting Mez back onto the Reinhardt, I always think is a good idea, but I think just individually, AZK played a lot better.
He did, and one thing that I thought was also very telling, both in, really on both rounds to some extent, even though it didn't work out as well on their defense, I think Rafa has had very good sound barriers here thus far.
Yeah, that's that game sense that we praise him for coming into play, and that's really, you only notice a Lucio oftentimes when they misuse a sound barrier, but he's been doing such a good job of keeping his team alive that he's definitely getting the props to. An interesting rotation here as they come up through top right. They've got him kind of spread out. This dive offense is operating on many different planes.
And for Liquid, they're going to have to find a way through sooner rather than later. Of course, Ube still on the defensive hog, but Team Liquid right now is attacking from multiple angles. You see AZK in the backline, Shatter in the front, and now Mezar coming up the gut. So 3 members of Team Liquid in, and they're just going to commit here in just a moment. And the good LG Loyal, they're getting poked down very heavily, but Shatter finds the wrong end of Ube's hook. And now Loyal might have the tools they need to push back Team Liquid.
He wanted to get in the moment the first hook came out, but he just didn't account for it to be back up, and Ube hits another huge hook. If it wasn't over before, it is now. AZK gonna die as well to Hedan there.
And just lessons there for anyone who's learning the new Roadhog hook 3.0 or whatever you might want to call it. Ube, step, step, shoot. Did not shoot immediately after hooking the Ana, but that is how you take down someone like the Hang immediately after a hook.
Yeah, Ana with that small bent over hitbox. She can be pretty frustrating, but that's exactly how you do deal with her. As a Roadhog, make sure that you don't have to chase her down afterwards, because likely, if you don't kill her on that first shot, she's going to nade you, sleep you, etc.
Oh, Team Liquid here, under a minute left to go here, the take first. The Hang does have Nano Boost up and ready, and that's probably going to be going on the ID here, who is in great position for a Nano Visor. So ID right now just waiting for the go signal. It's going to be AZK and Shatter into the backline, and here comes ID. The Nano Visor on the way, immediately takes down Hedan, and that's going to remove the healing from LG Loyal. Spree trying to bring it back here with 2 kills, but it's going to be very difficult now that you've lost that source of healing. A Shatter slicing and dicing into that backline, picks up 3.
They needed Shatter to step in there and do that too, as that 3K comes to fruition. Super Fluke was trying to cut down ID there. They will get this point now with 15 seconds remaining.
All right, and for Team Liquid here, this is the more undefined area of their attack, where they're going to be in overtime in a moment, but we've seen teams go bring the payload from here to the very end. So it's not impossible, but they're going to have to be perfect, and they're going to have to deal with a wave of ultimates coming their way from LG Loyal's Icefall coming in off the flank.
But they know it. That's why they switched to the D.Va. You talk about shot calling. They had the answer to this right away, but still Icefall gets to the backline, takes down Hang, takes down another.
Oh, they took that another. The ground talk coming out here from LG Loyal. Spree out for blood, out to Vicious right now. But now this is a bit of delay here from the offense. Usually this comes from the defense, but the question is, can Sarah just stay in the payload for a little bit longer? Can they get anyone else out there? And the answer is no. LG Loyal, the ultimate advantage, just too strong there in the end. They're able to stop things right after first, but for Team Liquid now, this opens up the possibility of victory if they can just have a first point hold. But holding for 2.5 minutes on Kings Row, definitely easier said than done. My question to you here, Hex, is that they ran dive defense to begin with. Do you run dive defense again, given how much work that Ube did on Roadhog the first time around?
That's a great question. I think they do, because I think they're used to it. But if I were running Liquid, I'd put Mez on the Reinhardt. I think he's just superior on the Reinhardt. I think you can still run the other things that they were running. Yeah, that's exactly what we see coming down unless Mezar switches. I do just want to call out again, the only reason you see Shatter switch to the D.Va is because they know that a 76 ult is coming in. And it was at 99%. So that's the kind of game sense and knowledge that we talk about with Liquid's potential. Shatter never really plays D.Va otherwise. It was the only reason, just unfortunately, Icefall with a great flank able to come around onto them and find what he was looking for. But Mez, yeah, this is exactly what I was saying. They're going to put him on Reinhardt, but the rest of this defense remains unchanged.
And I do like the switch up here. They're playing Mez on Ryan. This is at least going to make Ube have to work a little bit harder to find early pickoffs, and perhaps give a little bit more breathing room to the supports in the back as AZK and Shatter look for the ability to flank the offense as they come in.
Well, ID actually is also on a Zarya too, so much heavier composition, a lot more meat on the ground to try to keep this defense intact here. If they can stop them before first point, you see the box on the ground. You know what the victory conditions are. But that's a very aggressive dive in. Look for the hook right away. They do hook. No cleanup. Gets naded instead.
Ube not able to finish his plate there. Goes down immediately. And this is open for Team Liquid here to really reverse things out. Shatter and AZK still in great health to move around. But with Mezar dying off the counter charge, this is hardly clean here for Team Liquid. You see the DPS trying to bring it back. And it's very even here, Hex. But Hedan just a little bit far out. Let's ID finish him out. And Team Liquid will hold off this very first push. But they still have 2 minutes to go here, Hex. Well, and the pressure is not going to stop.
Up until that point where Hedan died, they had a much better advantage trade-wise. That hook was enormous. Shatter comes in and reflects the helix onto Ube.
That was an incredible reflection coming in there from Shatter, saving his teammate after the hook, something that is more doable here. Now the hook doesn't pull you in quite as close. So Shatter being almost support Genji there in just a moment, and this is going to buy Team Liquid a lot of time here, Hex.
As a Genji who has Zarya saved your life many times, you'd love to be able to return the favor like that.
Well, AZK right now looking to come in over the top as Shatter dives into that back line. That was way too over-aggressive. He went in alone, eats the Helix Rocket, and dies as a result. AZK trying to equalize it out. Takes down Mineral with the Pulse as Team Liquid right now holding back, making LG Loyal come to them. And Shatter should be able to get back in, but now he's on the 76. Next team fight is underway. Loyal all in on this fight.
They throw everything down in there. Was that a boostio I saw out of the corner of my eye? AZK trying to get into the backline, trying to get something going, but this Graviton will spell the end of Liquid's chances to hold on first point. Now desperation time, as that is all they have to get to. That box right there on the ground. Garage is slow, not that slow.
And yet Liquid could still pull this back because they do have Graviton going to the next fight, and that is not a very swift Garage. That is actually something that should have been upgraded a long time ago if you were doing the building design here for Kings Row. So it's going to come down to one final fight. Team Liquid moving in. It's off the Graviton of ID, where they win or lose, and ID wastes no time. Graviton comes in, 4 people into that Graviton here, but they get nothing. Good day, sir. Super Blue drops the Earth Shatter in retaliation. Sets up 3 kills here from LG Loyal. And Team Liquid, they can't back out here, Hex. They have to stay in, and yet they just don't have the firepower. They're fighting upstream right now, and very likely this is going to be LG Loyal's map.
Desperation time as Shatter will jump down onto the cart, but desperation not paying off. That is going to be LG Loyal, formerly known as Luminosity Gaming, taking first map.
Well, technically, the LG stands for Luminosity Gaming, so if you extend it out, it's Luminosity Gaming Loyal. So really, we just add Loyal at the end. We just don't say the Luminosity part quite.
Yeah, it's like Coke and Classic Coke.
Why not? But you take a look here, and Team Liquid, I kind of feel like they had a little bit more time there. I feel like they rushed that final defense. The payload wasn't quite there yet. If they just waited maybe a little bit longer. Because after that Graviton, they didn't have flow through there.
Right. That was the problem. They were trying to get to the high ground, trying to get a little too cute around it, so I completely agree with you there.
Well, I just want to say that LG, so much more efficient. I think that I'm saving syllables upon syllables by just saying that. Now the question is, am I going to actually successfully say that? That's a big question. But we had a lot of questions coming into this one. LG Loyal, they didn't even pick this map. Team Liquid, this was their map coming in. What went wrong for Liquid?
A multitude of things went wrong. I think early on, they simply hadn't warmed up. That's what it looked like. And then, as you mentioned there towards the end, they rushed that fight. That was a fight that they had to win. Although I don't know if it's going to be great after that. But I think they expected a little higher level play early on. Then they got it on the second half, and it was too late.
Well, what went wrong for Liquid quite clearly was defense. Their offense was fine. They finished out Kings Row with plenty of time. They even got the first point a second time. The problem is that on their defense, they ran something that left them incredibly vulnerable to Roadhog hooks. Ube devoured them alive, and then AZK had a very weak opening on offense, or on defense rather. So you put all those factors together, it meant that their defense was probably of a lower caliber than they were expecting coming into this game.
Yeah, they definitely looked a little bit messy. The positioning on a lot of these fights, like even at the very end there, Rafa coming in with a very late sound barrier after a couple people had already fallen. There were a couple of other disjunct fights. And actually, one thing that I'd like to point out as well, they had a few times when Winston Messer would dive in, and it just didn't seem to work out. So what are your thoughts on Messer, first of all? Reinhardt or Winston? Where does he feel the best?
Reinhardt, go ahead.
Right.
Hex has basically said the answer. I will note that I think as Winston has had pretty good moments. I think, though, it's very easy for an offensive Winston or defensive Winston to look bad because when you leap in, you are depending on two things. You're depending on your support to be there right with you and keeping you alive, but you're also depending on your offense to go in at the same time. If the call is made, go in, and Mezar trusts Rafa and goes in, but for whatever reason, AZK hasn't communicated and says that he's ready to go, instead of worrying about 3 threats in your face at one time, you just have a scientist going there, I've made a mistake. So it does depend.
I think you're giving up so much playmaking potential taking him off of the Reinhardt because that's always been, in my opinion, his strength is his special mix of being consistent, not letting his team die by just trying to get aggressive with shields. But then when the moment comes, he usually follows through on those moments and has those big plays.
Yeah, he might be, he's on the top of my list, towards the top anyway, for specifically that shield and Earth Shatter battle. He definitely holds his team in that regard. Well, and especially with Ube going off on Roadhog, he actually played really well, and he's been somebody we'd have a lot of questions about. I did learn one other thing before we go into our next map, which is Temple of Anubis, that I learned from this game, and that is, it's very disappointing for me to bring this back up, but apparently, Hex, you lie about being on the cart in voice comms during your games.
It just
That is
seemed
just-
I could have sworn I was there, but
just
maybe I blinked,
despicable.
maybe I rewound a little bit. But yeah, I always say like I was there, guys, and then I quit. I leave voice chat immediately.
But you have to understand is that we were on the phone with the experts from CSI Overwatch, and on Zoom Enhanced, you were not on the payload.
That's not how it works.
So, I'm sorry.
Anyway, well, Temple of Anubis is the next map. Getting back to this matchup, the first map of the day going to Loyal. They're coming into Temple of Anubis, and they've looked pretty strong on Temple of Anubis, but once again, this is actually Team Liquid's choice. What are we expecting coming out of this map?
Well, it's Team Liquid's choice because they've won 2 maps in this entire tournament, Temple of Anubis being one of them. So I guess you go there instead of Hanamura. It also does lend itself a little more to slow pushing, so I wouldn't be surprised to see more Mezzer on the Rhine rather than the wide open areas of Hanamura last.
That's pretty much covers it here. I mean, going in, I think LG has done also okay on assault maps overall. So overall, this is clearly where Liquid has been able to extend a lot of series out to 4 maps. We'll see if it works out for them coming into Anubis. I do think that Liquid in general came out a little bit cold on round 1 on King's Row, came out much stronger after. So it might be a different Liquid team going into this because, again, if you discount round 1 on King's Row just a moment ago, it actually wasn't that bad of a showing from them.
Yeah, no, I really want to see Shatter and AZK doing what they even did last week in the midst of a lot of losses and start to get their wind underneath them because they did not look nearly as strong in that last game as they did last week. And maybe they're still feeling the growing pains of a team that's been changing a lot. They just got a new coach. And so let's see if they can solidify anything large enough to translate into a victory as we are coming into game number 2 here on Temple of Anubis.
Well, it is Temple of Anubis, and of course, we did see some teams experiment pretty heavily with Bastion here back last week, right after the patch. Doesn't look like we're seeing that again this time, though, Hex.
No, not quite yet. Liquid not going to be running the Bastion. I think a lot of it is because it is such an all-in strategy, and also knowing what LG Loyal likes to run, it's not great against Bastion. On this map, they'll run a Widow and a Pharah together, so you're knocking down shields early on, and you have to run a Diva on defense in front of the Bastion. There's just too much that has to go right for Liquid to run a Bastion defense.
One thing that strikes out to me when I look at this LG offense here, of course, Hedan will be going to the Ana in all likelihood, he may, but the rest of it is that they are running a very heavy dive comp, but I would say is that given that Team Liquid didn't necessarily deal with Ube's Roadhog all that well, I understand why you run a Genji here, the dive, but why not come back in and run with a Roadhog here instead, just because it seemed to be so effective the first time around?
I would tend to agree with you. I also want to point out that Super Pluke is living every tank's dream as he's going to be running the Widowmaker. He has run it before in previous times. They're also going to combo up and put Spree and Hadan together, so a tankless composition coming out for this offense, AP.
You don't see tankless openings all that often. That's because you are made out of tissue paper if you do. This is either going to go very, very well for LG Loyal or go very, very badly. There's not a whole lot of in-between, but Super Pluke right now is looking for the pickoff, and he gets it! Gets to hang early on. What a great pickoff here by Pluke, and that might be all LG Loyal needs. 3 unanswered kills. They should be able to get the point off this first push.
Now, Pluke does give his life for it as AZK eventually hunts him down. The tragic part about that shot was I think it came just as the defense matrix expired there onto Dahang. Losing Dahang early in a fight is never a good sign for Team Liquid. They are going to come back out and just stall as much, but this point is all but over.
Anytime you lose an Ana early on to a Widowmaker shot like that, it's pretty much done. Now, taking a look at LG Loyal, they're looking to keep the momentum going forward. This is a little bit risky because they're not even all together as they go in, but if they get an early pickoff, it might be all they need. Certainly, Team Liquid is not really set up here yet as well. Both teams looking for the Loudport first pick, and the Pulse Bomb hits Dahang again. Dahang going down early in a second fight arrow, but with Ube going down, Rafa keeping the hope alive that Team Liquid can't pull this back. But this would be a very quick strike, Hex, if this is successful for LG Loyal.
Well, LG Loyal choosing to fight right away and fight in the chaos, saying that we're going to be better at the chaos than you are, and it has been all of them in the kill feed so far. 4 for this side of LG Loyal as they continue to try to close out this map.
This is incredibly fast right now, and a Spree laying down the rockets able to put that in. Ice felt in over the top, and suddenly now if you're Liquid, you're in trouble. But AZK, the pulse bomb comes in, takes down 2, and Team Liquid trying to fight this back, but the point is almost captured. Liquid, they cannot get off for even a nanosecond now, where it's going the other way. But it's AZK with another 2 kills, getting the Tracer cleanup necessary to throw LG Loyal off of this point.
AZK putting the team on his back there, getting all the kills they need. Most importantly, killing Mercy as she tried to come in towards the end. She was only at 85%, but a couple of pulse pistols could have brought everyone back to life. They do give up on the Mercy. I think Mercy can be good at closing out assault maps, but Hadan would prefer to be on the Ana instead. Hedan, I'm trying so hard.
One day, Ube though coming into the backline, Dragon Blade up, looking for Dahang. Dahang, is he gonna fall again? Misses the sleep dart. 3-1 in favor of LG Loyal. Dahang already out of the fight. Shadow, of course, still up and in this. Gonna try and look for a way to bring this back. Nowhere close to a Dragon Blade though.
2
But
kills.
he picks up 2 regardless. So with that contribution from Shadow, it's probably bought enough time for Team Liquid to get back onto this point.
Well, Mineral gets 2 of his own right there, surprisingly, as the Lucio comes in DPS style, but Liquid does answer immediately, taking down ID. Or actually, ID taking down Mineral and Ube. That should be all she wrote. AZK looking for some last bit of cleanup, but everyone had retreated off of the point. Liquid has all stabilized right now. They're going to have some ults to work with, although they gave up 2 ticks, so every fight going to be that much more intense.
Stabilizing is almost underselling it here with 3 ultimates in their bank right now. It's gonna be very difficult for LG Loyal to come in and actually take this cleanly in the way that assault maps do demand. And AZK moving around. Icefelt though with the pulse bomb takes down one early on. Ube at the Dragon Blade. 2 kills here. Liquid now under duress to bring this back, and they're not able to bring it back. The Sound Bearer was a little bit late from Rafa this time around, and now it's up to Shatter versus the world right now with Diva. See if he can bring it back, but Hex, they still might do it.
They still get a couple right there, not quite clean enough. Ube is going to get these dash resets. We've seen Genji's take over last points time and again because of that mechanic. Mezzer now back out here. The bio nade on everyone, no healing. They are getting a couple kills though. Assault map so difficult to finish out. Ube doing his best, but is it gonna be enough?
Shatter being a delicious candy right now because he has been a lifesaver coming back in and able to hold on to this point not once, but twice. So he's been keeping Liquid in this when otherwise they would have fallen much earlier in this particular situation. But Liquid, or Loyal, still applying the pressure, but there's the Earth Shatter from Mez. Gonna take down Ube immediately, set up Super Pluke for death as well. So that should be the end of this LG Loyal push.
It's time for LG Loyal to back out and decide what they want to do next. This push is over. However, some things that of note to be able to work with in the next push, they will have Graviton up from Spree. He's been a catalyst to their fights, and then they can choose whichever DPS they want to throw into that.
All right, going to the next fight, probably going to be the best window here for LG Loyal. They have 3 minutes left, but they will have a Dragon Blade up. They just need to avoid the self-destruct here from ID. Of course, self-destruct can be a big spoiler. If it even gets 1, that oftentimes can be the end of your push. Shatter, moving to the backline, gets Hedan immediately. And even though the Dragon Blade from Ube takes down 2, it's probably too little too late.
It took down both supports, so maybe, as everyone else will have no sustain, but they need to finish this out now. Again, only 1 tick needed, so if they win a fight close enough or quick enough, they should be able to do it, but does not look like it. Mez and AZK combined for a couple more. Silver lining, though, ZP. They didn't have to burn Grav. They will have Earth Shatter. Icefeld still has Pulse Bomb, so yes, it's a lost fight, but not the worst.
No, not at all. But here's the thing is that you look at Team Liquid, they will have 3 ults up for the next fight, 2.5 minutes left. And this is going to have to be a very clean big bang coming out between Spree and Icefelt on that grab Pulse Bomb combo, because if not, if they lose 2 or 3, again, even though it's 1 tick, it's still unlikely that they end up grabbing this here. Spree moving in, looking for the Graviton. He's looking for the highest value possible and only picks up 1. It's Mezar stuck in there. I'm not even sure the Pulse Bomb went in right after. No, it went for the hang in the backline step, but what's going on? Shatter picks up 2, gets Hedan early on, makes it 3. He's been unchained in the back, and Spree quickly finding himself without a whole lot of teammates to back him up here.
Well, he is demecking him. Icefelt and Ube still alive in this point, though, so flankers with a lot of kill potential still trying to run wild. They're trying to burn him down with the beam. Ube does take down Rafa again, but it's just not been decisive enough. Ube now at low health. He's going to just wait for a sweet death. Mezzer happy to oblige.
That was a foolish Dragon Blade from Ube. Full stop, not smart, because now you have a minute and a half left. You threw that Dragon Blade into a losing fight, and now you're unlikely to have the Dragon Blade up for a final fight. It's not impossible with 90 seconds, but it's not super likely either.
Highlight Rafa there too, another great sound barrier, kept Mezzer alive long enough to get an Earth Shatter down, allowed them to get a couple kills off the ultimates that they needed.
Well, AZK looking for the pulse bomb in the backline. Ana in his sights, doesn't throw out the pulse bomb, didn't like what he saw, which means that Hedan lives at least a little bit longer, but does finally fall here. 5v5 on the point. Shatter gets onto Mineral. Both supports here for the side of LG Loyal are gone, and Hex, we're down to the final minute here.
They should get out now if they don't think they can do it, and they've been losing enough players that you just get out, you reset. Icefeld, Spree, and Ube will all have their ults again. There is time for one final push. Both Ana's been very quiet this game. I think that's got to just be target priority. They are getting hunted down without mercy.
There's a pun to be made there that there's no
I heard
mercy
it at
to
the end.
protect Ana,
I didn't try to do it.
Either way, though, this is going to be the final attempt here for LG Loyal. Not a whole lot going in their favor, but they will have a Nano Blade at the very least. So Ube, with the potential to put this in or the top here for LG Loyal. He's holding on to that Dragon Blade. He's going to be boosted here in just a moment, but the Pulse Bomb already comes out. 4 people are dead before the Blade even comes out of its sheath. And Ube going to take the trip to the ground just by good measure. Liquid fully prepared for that fight, and they vanquish LG Loyal in style. 5 seconds left remaining, Hex. That's going to be it.
That will be it. No one will be able to get back here on time, I don't believe. Nope, that is it. As we have a 1-point push for LG Loyal, unable to close out Temple of Anubis. Although not all that surprising, we've seen a lot of draws on assault maps lately.
We haven't seen a lot of draws, but I will note just the fierceness of that initiation coming up from Team Liquid. Maybe that was Rafa's shot calling. It's hard to say, but whatever it was, they caught LG Loyal off guard because, like I said, the Blade was just coming out of its sheath and Ube's entire team was dead behind him. That's because Shatter and AZK went in about a 2-second difference earlier, and that was enough to win that fight cleanly for Team Liquid. LG Loyal never had a shot.
I think it's especially smart when you only have to win that one last fight. No use being reactive, no use trying to save an economy or anything like that. So throw everything you have at it. If you can get the jump on the pushing team, and you're going to be able to lock them down like Liquid did there. So that is the stage for Anubis. 1 point for LG Loyal. Team Liquid now win potential if they can just finish out second.
I can't tell if the color matching is bad on that pyramid or just a very solar efficient pyramid, because either way, I just feel like maybe Egypt hasn't had the funds to keep that pyramid in proper repair over the years. That was just like, just throw something steel on top of it. Why not?
Well, they don't quite have the labor force that they did when they were being built, so maintenance probably a bit of an issue there. What do you see here from the defense? Anything out of the ordinary there, ZP?
I'll take a look at the defense here. Not really. They are keeping the option open of diving a little bit with Spree. But other than that, it's a more standard defense where Hedan and Mineral are going to be well protected behind Fluke. And Icefeld is going to be drawing a lot of fire as the primary DPS. Of course, Ube, the X Factor, sneaky around as Roadhog. Going to be looking to take someone out like AZK early on and hurt the offense before it can even begin.
ID not always known as the sniper, but on this team he is the sniper for him, and he's had some good openings on this map in particular as the Widowmaker, so he'll be something to watch. It's definitely going to get Spree out of position too, but speaking of out of position, they have to be very careful of Ube, who punished them on King's Row.
Ube's had a great Roadhog, full stop.
Yep.
ID, though, coming in over the top, looking for early Widowmaker picks. Of course, for LG Loyal was Pluke. This time it's ID, and ID not taking anywhere near as sharp of an angle, so he's not getting the opportunities that we saw early on. But the rest of Liquid, they're diving right in. No mercy here whatsoever as they try and push in aggressively, but Loyal actually able to push him back, so both teams relatively healthy to start this out.
Yeah, I do like the sightline they forced him in. Icefall goes down very early. Now that's ID's not going to have to worry about it.
What a great bio nade going to the back line to Hang, tagging 4 people with that. There's no healing, and the dive immediately there, the fall that through. AZK and Shatter feasting off all those purple life bars.
To Hang's revenge indeed, as he was brutalized the other side of this map, targeted down very early, gave up his life first, I think 3 fights in a row. So to Hang with a little redemption. And Ana will not get the glory in the kill feed, but everyone very squishy because of that. Now, AZK has a Pulse Bomb. To Hang almost with his up. ID with the insta-switch to Reaper is something that Liquid is known for running on this side of the map.
I do like the swap off to Reaper here. Last time we saw ID on it, I thought it went pretty well for them. And we'll see if it goes well this time. Of course, we'll see. AZK holding on to that Pulse Bomb, going to be looking for the early pickup. If you can get Hedan early on, that'd be huge, although definitely hard to do as an offensive tracer here.
Well, Hidan is going to be the one with the ultimate up for them. It's the only one up. Maybe put it on Spree, cause all sorts of chaos. Still waiting for the right angle. A hook does come in, does not get anyone.
So we see here, Liquid is just holding on. They won the go with the Nano Blade. They built it up, and here comes Shatter. Into the back line. Nano boost on him. Hasn't picked up anything yet. Does finally get in the mineral, but it's too even here to be in the offense's favor. ID gonna have to go for the health pack here. And Liquid, they're not giving up on this yet, but there's going to be Pluke. Drops the hammer, sets up another kill, and though Liquid is still in this, trading out 1-for-1, respawns are going to be coming in soon, and it's just not going to be effective.
I think when it went 4v4 and they'd already popped Primal Rage, you likely stay in just hoping you can get another ult out of it and not popping any of your own. And that's what you saw. You saw them have to burn an Earth Shatter to make sure that they won that fight. So not the worst, but I think when you lose 2, you already know it's mostly over unless a miracle happens. But give yourself a chance for that miracle. Liquid did burn most of what they had. They're going in. That is going to be Rafa, who's going to have a sound barrier up momentarily. ID is still working his way towards the Death Blossom. Everything else a little further away. Gonna have to fight this rather vanilla. Cut off right away is Mez. Gets a bubble to save him momentarily, but not long.
Unfortunately, Mez is way too cut off from his team because of that ice wall. And ID still a force here on the point, but with Ube winning versus AZK, and ID just getting slowed down there. Not super like good Liquid's way, but Shatter picks up 2. Unfortunately, he is now cosplaying as a popsicle. And it's interesting how the ID has actually been able to pull this back a bit here, Hex. Getting 2 towards the very end. So here comes the sound barrier from Rafa. Liquid, they sense opportunity. ID, backline, goes in for the Death Blossom. Is he going to get Hidan? He does! Picks off Hidan at the very end, does not get slept. And suddenly, Liquid making lemonade out of lemons here. What was kind of an awkward early attack. They almost have a tick off this.
Yeah, despite Shatter getting shattered. Sorry, had to. They're going to go into the back line. AZK picks up his opponent right there, and they are getting more kills. Liquid looking to close this out. Still only 1 tick, though, as it's highly contested. Another great hook.
AZK being the difference maker here in the end. The nano boost enabled him. The hook at the end, starting to finish things out. Ice felt under pressure, has to back out. Not getting any stall here is Tracer, as the stall is coming in from the other side, but suddenly Team Liquid in a dominating advantage. They have a full 6 back here on the point, Hex, and things are going from bad to worse. The Blizzard comes out, not a whole lot to go with it. Finally, though, Shatter does fall down. Spree trying to bring this back here for LG, and the Blizzard might have done its work.
Well, we've seen Blizzard on this map be nigh unbeatable, just not being able to kill Mei early on, allowing her to get out there, and yet again, Shatter frozen and icicle domed right there. Luminosity, or LG Loyal rather, holds on 1 tick off the clock for Team Liquid.
So for Liquid, at least they don't come away entirely empty-handed, but to begin with, it was kind of lucky they got to that place as a beginning anyways. It was ID fighting a way through at the very end to sort of create that opening, but now they have to make another opening here, Hex, which is easier said than done. But they do have a little bit of an ult advantage.
They have a huge ult advantage. There's no one up for LG to have something. They're going to back out here because they don't want to be under the nade. They do are able to escape the pulse bomb in the back, but it is time for them to go in. That pick should do it.
Ice Felt getting caught out. It was a beautiful hook there by AZK, and suddenly Team Liquid, big opportunity. Graviton by Shower, gonna pull in 3. The ice wall failing to protect them as ID feasting on their corpses there. Comes in from the other side, takes down everyone in that Graviton, makes it 3 kills here. And now even though Icefeld is back, LG Loyal again on the back foot and on the verge of losing here in Anubis. This is going very poorly here for LG Loyal.
That was such a brilliant Graviton, knowing that the Mei had been an issue. When you Graviton them below the bridge like that, it allows your team to come up over top and drop down on them. And though we didn't see it, on the other side of that ice wall was Reaper feasting, AZK getting a kill. Beautiful positioning to put that Graviton there, making sure that Mei can't stop you.
So here's the real secret to that, is that ice wall was actually done by the game itself. It was censorship. We could not show that on the air. And here's the ice wall. Not like, oh no, the censors have failed. This is exactly what we didn't want you to see. This is what was behind the curtain the entire time. But a little bit of brutality there from ID. Does pick off the Mei at the very end as well. So the Reaper, again, proving relatively solid here for Team Liquid, and big part of why they were able to take Anubis away from LG Loyal. However, let's not forget that LG Loyal was the tiniest of margins away from taking point B and then having like 6 minutes left over.
Before we get into the offense for LG Loyal, why is Reaper good on second? Why are they picking him up? Why is it working outside of censorable plays of the game?
close quarters combat. And when you're at the end there, you can hang out in those hallways. There's always small areas under the bridge. There was no open space to escape a Reaper there. He's also really good at killing people quickly, getting those respawners who are coming out. So even a Roadhog or someone, or even a Diva maybe trying to stall is very good at eliminating those heroes.
Reaper is good at snowballing an advantage when you know someone has to come around a corner to defend, A. B, he can go Wraith for him and come in and grab the health pack there at all times, which is pretty much tailor-made for him. So he can go in very deep on the point, back out, heal, come back in. And just in general, as Hex pointed out, it's very close quarters combat, so there's plenty of times for Reaper to really get high value in many situations. So it's a little bit surprising we don't see him as much from other teams on Nubis.
You used to see him hanging out over entrance on Archway, more during the Beyblade meta where he'd be able to drop down. But I think Reapers are getting smarter. And this also reminds me of like McCree getting smarter, where you're not going to get 5-man alts anymore. Those days are over. So just play it a little more standard. I think teams are having more success with that.
We even asked this about like Bastion. Well, maybe teams just haven't unlocked it because they're still playing in this old mindset. And maybe now ID, they've really unlocked the new best way of playing Reaper, at least in these circumstances. Another hero that we don't see a ton is Mei. And we've talked about it a little bit before on the air because obviously there's a key blizzard that stopped a couple of nice walls. Why don't we see more Mei? What are the downsides of playing Mei on a point like that?
Really, as far as Mei goes, it's a little bit surprising that she's fallen out of favor to begin with on Temple Anubis, because I still think she's quite good on there. I think part of it is that we're seeing teams dive more aggressively nowadays, so it's harder to get a high-value wall. You compare it to previous times where teams would run 2-2-2, or, of course, the heavy tank meta, and then you just roll in, you're really easy to split off with the wall. Now getting a good wall is more difficult, and if you don't get a good wall, Mei is definitely weaker than another hero you could put in her place under those circumstances. So I think it's that teams got better about playing around wall, A, and B, the compositions that you're running Mei against are less likely to be split off to begin with.
Yeah, I really liked. I think that's maybe why they put Spree on that, as far as someone who can maybe make those calls and is already dictating the ebb and flow of the team. Because if you miss a key wall, it could make or break a fight. And even though it's very hot on this Temple of Anubis, those ice walls actually did tend to be pretty good. They didn't melt too terribly quickly. And another theme throughout this game, going back to the first point where Team Liquid was able to successfully defend. I think AZK had a good job on Tracer defense, a couple of good pulse bombs there. But another thing, Mezzer had some great Earth Shatters. And when talking about the difference, well, do we want to see him on Reinhardt? Do we want to see him on Winston? Well, that answered it for me. But what else do you think? And you mentioned it before, but reiterate, why didn't LG Loyal get the first or the second point?
It was so close. It was so close. They were just unable to get the final closeout finishing. A lot of that is, yes, AZK played brilliant, but Tracer's just so good there. You even saw Icefell. You have 3 blinks. You have a rewind to get back. And there was the moments where that very last push was the biggest reason to me that Liquid was playing more aggressive. They weren't letting them set up really how they wanted to set up. So you weren't getting Giant Dragon Blade over the top. And there were a couple times where Ube straight up just made a mistake on his Dragon Blade.
Right, and the other thing too is that teams usually aren't running things, aside from perhaps a Roadhog, that can actually shut down a Tracer immediately on point B. McCree on offense, pretty rare to see there. So generally, the Tracer on defense in that situation doesn't have a whole lot of direct things that can really punish her heavily. So you will see her running around for quite a while. But if a Tracer is living that long, that also means she's getting more opportunities to pull off hero plays, which AZK certainly did in spades for Team Liquid on their defense.
Yeah, the Team Liquid definitely looked a lot stronger here in the second map. Maybe they're getting their stuff back together here, feeling a little bit more confident as they. They've been scrimming, but this is the first time since a lot of roster changes and team changes have happened that we've seen them. But I also want to say Shatter 2K started to come online there. In fact, he had some great Dragon Blade at the end of their first defense, and he was at least a contributing factor in defense. And then they switched him to Zarya, and I was feeling sad. I'm like, oh, why are you putting him on Zarya? And then he had that amazing grab at the end. And so we are going into Nepal next. It looked like you had a thought there.
Well, yeah, my big thought there is that in terms of initiation, and what was really important is that, again, who knows if it's shot calling or not, but I can't say enough for the final play on Liquid's defense where they basically took the football away from LG before they were able to kick it, because what happened is that they lost 4 people before Ube's blade even came out of its sheath, and that was a very well-timed go-in call that came in from Liquid. Who knows who made it, but if you go off what we know about how their team is structured, that very well could have been a difference in having Rafa there today when they didn't have Rafa there last week.
No, definitely looking a lot smoother on that one compared to even the first point. But yeah, if it is indeed Rafa, whoever's making that call, that was a good one because that was maybe the differentiating factor. Obviously, a whole bunch of plays and players contributed, but that's maybe that one point where you can say this was a major difference between victory and defeat for Team Liquid as they have tied it up going into Nepal. So Nepal, for everyone who's watching, was this time selected by Loyal, LG Loyal, because they lost that last one. Why do you think they want to go to Nepal versus the other points?
Well, you don't want to go to Oasis, because I mentioned that Liquid had only won 2 maps in the tournament so far. One of them was Anubis, so still, they've only won 2 maps, but throw that on there. The other one was Oasis. You don't want to fight Liquid in an air war, despite some inconsistencies of their combo sometimes. They're going to run it harder than anyone else, so not really that surprising that they're going to avoid Oasis. So, Nepal instead.
The interesting thing for me is that Team Liquid has been one of the most ardent proponents of running triple DPS in this tournament, running it a little under 50% of the time. And yet I still don't feel like they've had the most success with it relative to when they run other compositions here, because we're taking a look at it early on. It is looking like they're going to be running with Tracer, Genji, Pharah, and the Pharah supported by Mercy, so a lot in on ID here as DPS, and yet I still feel like Liquid has had way more success with the run more 2-2-2.
I agree. Adding in a second tank, I think, would be very smart for them, whether it's been ID or Shatter on the Zarya, though I want to see more of Shatter on things that are not Genji. He had a good graviton with Zarya, but I don't think it was the giant Zarya plays overall. I got caught out a couple times there. But when you run that second tank, it also makes things a lot easier for Mezzer. He wouldn't have to run the Winston. But regardless, they're going to run this triple DPS into triple tank.
And ID in the skies once more, taking sort of a more Mangachu-esque approach when we think about the great games he's had on the Shrine stage in the past. Looking for early Rocketeer, doesn't get it immediately, but does enough to set up Shatter for that kill on the Icefelt. So with Icefelt going down, ID doesn't have a whole lot of threat on him. The opposing Ana, sure, and Hedan, but if Hedan's hitting ID, he's not hitting anyone else's. ID feeling way more confident to just run into the backline here. Lots of rockets coming down, no immediate pickoffs, but there it is, does find Mineral early on, and Liquid will be able to take this.
The very early rockets actually forced out an amp it up from the opposing Lucio, so a lot of that healing down as the longer that fight dragged on. He was not going to be able to keep everyone alive and healthy, and Hedan, when he's working on trying to shut down ID, he's not doing healing, so that just worked out very well for them.
All right, and you see Team Liquid here coming back in. Pulse Bomb, the only thing online here, but they will have more up soon, as we see LG Loyal just looking for a way of getting in here. Not being super aggressive, the lose ice fell immediately as a result. Liquid, a better initiation early on, and yet Loyal now starting to bring this back a little bit. 4v4 in the point, but AZK and Shadow ready to go. Every DPS ult is up here for Liquid. Mirage comes in onto Reinhardt early on, not able to finish his plate though, so a little bit scrappy here between both teams, as big effort here by Plouf to stay alive for as long as he did.
Yeah, this Pharah needs to be a little more effective, quicker, although it didn't punish him in that fight. They lost Icefeld and Hedan right away. Who's going to even mess with the Pharah at that point? So you have to get a little more. They did end up using some tank stuff to prevent it, but I expect a little bit quicker cleanup from ID in the future if that ideal situation for the Pharah Mercy combo presents itself again.
Well, for Liquid, they will have the Dragon Blade up for the next fight, and Shatter not fully healed up, and though I don't think this is going to stop him here. The opportunities end. You see Mezar moving up the Primal Rage, and actually Liquid just holding on here. Shatter doesn't want to go in without being healed up. That's what he's been waiting for. Soundbear comes down here from LG Loyal, so this is going to make Shatter wait a little bit longer. Finally has the waiting ended. Will the Dragon Blade come out? And no, he's just going to get hammered down instead. Bit of confusion there from Shadow, as he never quite had the opportunity there, Hex.
Well, they lost 2, I think, by the time he wanted to switch it back around to use the Dragon Blade. Spree had already gone on a killing spree, haha, and they will get a full team wipe here, 6 kills overall.
Still a really good position for Team Liquid to be in here, though. Even though they lost that fight, maybe it's for the better that they didn't even use Dragon Blade there. It would have been even better if they didn't use Nano Boost, because now they can just come back in. They only have to win 1 fight. Now, LG Loyal well-equipped for the next fight, but kind of like where Team Liquid is here. They just have to win 1 fight out of the next 6, and they're going to take this first round.
Well, in the pre-Ana days, there was also another support ultimate to use with Dragon Blade, which worked very well, and that was Sound Barrier. We'll see if he gets it. Nope! Bye, Shatter!
Shatter immediately getting dispatched, but there is one good part about that. He got taken down so as Icefeld picks up 5! All right, why not? There's tack visors, and then there's tack visors.
I mean, some people will say, well, you didn't even really have to aim, but if that's the case, why doesn't everyone get 5s on their tack visor? Icefeld has had a very good 76.
One thing that's worth noting, though, is that Team Liquid might have just gone for the wipe there anyways. Like, I'm not sure how much they were fighting back in that
Very
case.
true.
They might have given him his own personal shooting gallery.
Shatter. It didn't even channel, yeah.
That's what I was about to say, is Icefeld got that, is that he didn't have to use lose Dragon Blade, so he gets another opportunity at this. Not getting a whole lot from it, though. Dives in, puts it away. Nothing to be had, but it's a distraction that lets AZK come in and pick up 2. So Team Liquid still throwing LG Loyal back. AZK still unchecked, darting around the sides. Both DPS still in it, and LG Loyal here has to go for the Panic Sound Barrier, the one-man sound barrier, as Mineral is just trying to buy desperate time for the rest of his team to maybe pull this back. But Liquid in a winning position right now.
I may be in the minority, but I've never been impressed with one-man bans. That, an extension of it, they had to desperately get on there. They were going to blink on there, but now he is off of it. Wick running down very quickly. Translocation going to come in as we see a Sombra just to get back on the point.
They do get back on the point. AZK, though, is already taken down 2, just murdering people, taking advantage of the fact where they have to throw their bodies onto the point. 5 unanswered kills here from Team Liquid, and this is going to be round number 1, the Shrine, going the way of Team Liquid. So pretty dominant overall.
Look very good for them, and I think they made this switch off of Pharah at the right time, which has been an issue for them in the past. It was getting some work done, but not the kind of value you want when you're running a combo with it, especially. When you're providing 2 resources and you're damage boosting rockets and you're not getting kills, it's time to switch off of it probably. But they're gonna give it another go. I love Pharah on this map because you can get giant concussion blasts on the point if you can come out of nowhere. We'll see how long he wants to stay with it this time though. There's no way he's staying on this Sombra.
I mean, if he does stay in the Sombra, there is some logic to it, but no, it's not going to happen. I was going to say maybe you go to hack the enemy Reinhardt, you make them lose the poke battle immediately, but that's very high risk in terms of actually pulling that off. And instead, they're just going to be playing this more traditionally. And something to watch here is ID. This is where Pharah can get a surprising amount of boot kills off that concussive blast early on. See if ID goes for it.
Should help him early in this poke war too. They are going to go for the concussion. Early got it!
He got it! Fluke goes for the long ride. That's exactly what ID was hoping for early on. 2 kills here from Team Liquid, and that's it. You lose your ride that early, that free, you are going to lose the point.
I was in the process of saying Pharah can help with the shield wars. Well, I guess Pharah just won the shield war by herself right there, knocking the Reinhardt into the eternal abyss. That's a really nice first take for Liquid.
Well, that is the threat that Pharah has on this particular stage. It's a double threat, not only rockets in a closed area, but also the ability to throw people off the ledge. And Fluke going down early again, not really leaving the rest of LG Loyal a lot to work with here, as they're going to have to back this up.
That is 2 immediate deaths for Reinhardt. Not great when you're expecting shields and fights to revolve around shields, especially on this stage. They're going to hold pretty far forward here, front left, and they've got a spy as Rafa's just going to skate up to the windows and peep through.
The rest of Team Liquid right now just holding pretty far up here, not trying to give a whole lot of room here to LG Loyal. See if this works out, but they do have the nano boosted ride moving in to initiate things here, and that's going to push LG Loyal back again. You cannot enter the room at that point, and Fluke's just been having a rough round here, Hex.
Hard to put it all on him. He is the front line, of course, that everyone is going to be focusing on. But yes, that is 3 fights and 3 first deaths for Fluke.
Well, LG Loyal gonna have to try and find a way through. 50% already passing them by early on here as ID holding on to the barrage. This is where ID is just waiting to just barrage from the floor, perhaps, if they ignore him. He's going in over the top. Here comes the barrage, takes down 1. Immediately taken down, though, so perhaps a little bit over aggro. LG Loyal finally with the chances. Ube starting to crack this wide open.
Just a little bit slow, and I think overestimating the power of a Zarya bubble. Yeah, a bubble can help keep you alive, but it's not going to keep you alive.
He's dead! He's already dead, Ube, please!
Well, I think you just saw the visual representation of LG Loyal's frustration so far on this map.
How many crusty clowns do you think Ube has beaten up in his lifetime?
I understood that reference.
Oh, here comes the Graviton in from LG. LG looking to maintain their advantage. Graviton comes in. 2 people, or 1 person going down early on, so it's a bit of a trade, and AZK gonna come ahead a little bit here, as Liquid now, they've broken through the Graviton, and they have a real opportunity to bring this back, but Icefeld, Tack Visor, pulling ID out of the sky. Very even here. This is pretty aggro here from Ruffley. He's looking for the boop on the Icefeld, and Icefeld does need to watch his flank. Goodbye, Icefeld.
by Icefeld. ID staying on this Pharah, hasn't had the most value out of it, but right now no real need to switch off of it, although I wouldn't mind a Reaper in this situation as he's played it so well and they're against triple tank.
Well, Liquid right now able to pull their way through, and that was interesting how telegraphed that was from Rothbach. I saw that as like, he's going for a boop. And then, of course, the boop happens. I don't think Icefeld respected it the way he needed to, and LG now down to their final fight to try and retake Sanctum.
Well, going to hold pretty far up here. Earthshatter will be incoming. Pluke with a chance to redeem himself if he can hit his own giant Earthshatter. He's, as you mentioned, had a rough map. They're going to split up, rotate some to the right, some to the left. Here comes a grab.
Rauton comes in, Shatter moving to the back line, trying to be his own fall through to some extent, and they get 2 kills off the Graviton. LG Loyal not able to get back in the point, and Liquid looking much stronger here in control than we've seen them in quite some time.
Looking very good, and it's not just one piece either. It's not that ID's going off, but a nice boop early on. It's not that anyone is particularly having a great game. Is this the moment that Liquid is actually playing as a whole more so than we've seen them?
It's very possible. I do think that there's been an uptick in their shot calling quality for sure and how they've been handling things. And I think Shatter has definitely been a much better piece because the last time we saw Rafa's with Louis wasn't quite as good. Now Shatter working out much better. And I will say as a disclaimer to the last round, let me just say for the record that I am not psychic. I merely stole Biff's sportsbook.
Wow, we are really dating ourselves,
I
ZP.
know.
So, yeah, we're just going to move on from that as we go forward. There is a Sky Battle. Spree will be running the Pharah as well as ID, so we'll see what happens here, although ID is the one with a Mercy on him, so should have the advantage. But there goes that Mercy. Spree takes down to Hang.
2 kills early on here from Team Liquid. Spree trying to pull this back, but not really getting many targets. Instead, just eating the pulse pistols to the head. AZK pulling this right back, although Luke and Icefeld still making a go of it as well, but very even between both teams. It's going to come down to Tracer on Tracer action here. Or the top 1 HP for AZK, but he will finally fall. So with Icefeld winning that, LG Loyal perhaps in a slightly better position, and they are going to get first control at this point in all likelihood. Liquid, though, still trying to make a game of it.
Well, they wanted to, then Ube decided game over, man, and he gets 3 kills on his Genji, as that is a first take for Luminosity Gaming Loyal. Icefeld has his Pulse Bomb up, AZK does as well. Perhaps the next fight can be decided on a Tracer battle between who gets the better value.
LG Loyal looking to maintain their advantage right now, trying to make Liquid make some pretty risky engages. Mezar out pretty much by himself here. I don't know what was going on there, but he is able to get back to his Mercy, so he's going to live for now, and has instead worked out as a major distraction. Meanwhile, though, Icefeld able to get to the backline. It's already taken down 2. Ube, full HP. This is not looking great here for Team Liquid, although ID picking off 2. Maybe bring it back. The problem is that Ube and Icefeld have been unchecked this entire fight.
He takes down 2, but it's so late in that fight. Hang's gonna get dashed through. ID comes in, and I'd be surprised if he stays on this Pharah. That's usually a sign that I just want to ult, and then I'm gonna switch. We have to switch something up. They've done nothing thus far. Never mind, ID thinks that his Pharah is going to be okay. 50% to 0% in favor of LG Loyal.
Well, now for Liquid, you got to think that they're committed to this team composition here. It would be weird to see both the Hang and ID swap with maybe 1 fight left. So
yeah,
they do have the Resurrection up for the next fight, though. So that might be why they're sticking with this. ID looking for the Pharah v Pharah battle, not getting any rockets here early on. But there's the Dragon Blade coming out from Ube. Ube trying to put a dagger in this early on and has 2 people going down immediately, but the Resurrection comes in. So Liquid trying to fight this back. Will they get anything off the res here? ID coming up dry here over the top. Meanwhile, Spree and Ube pick up another 2 kills. So res or no res, this is looking more the way of LG Loyal. Icefeld finally going down the ID, but probably too little too late. Oh! Moral victory.
Yeah, too little too late has been the entire key to this. They did flip it over in the ground war while all that was going on, but every time ID gets a kill or 2, it is already after the fight is essentially over. Now maybe being able to stall it out now, as I said, they do have control of the point.
They were able, yeah, that was the one upside, is that they got control during that, and they are actually pulling it back, surprisingly enough, at least stalling out LG Loyal from getting back onto the point. So pretty interesting fight in how that broke down.
My biggest problem with this Team Liquid composition is that the only answer to Spree's Pharah has been ID on the Pharah, which I don't think is ideal, even though he's going to have his composition. He's simply not getting kills fast enough, not even doing the damage onto Spree necessary to force him out of fight. Spree's going to come in over top, looks for Tracer, she blinks away.
Spree right now looking for anything. The barrage while he still has the sound bearer. The sound bearer, of course, is faded. Going deep in on Dahang and dunks over Dahang. Rocket right to the head. Spree now still holding onto barrage, looking for his opportunity. Meanwhile, AZK getting taken down as prime by Ube, was on the flank, didn't get much from it. And LG Loyal looking pretty good position to retake this here, X. Liquid is going to be down to 1 fight left, if so.
I mean, the fact that Liquid has 70% on the point without ever decisively winning a fight says a lot. There is Dahang being hunted down yet again. Been a tough life for that Mercy.
I gotta say, I kind of wish they'd staggered that out a little bit more. Dahang didn't really have an escape there. There was no allies to shift to. And now, conceivably, you can get back for the next fight.
You have to fear that pistol. Very strong indeed. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So they're going to have a ton of ults on the side of LG Loyal. 4 to be exact, while only ID with his barrage available for Liquid. They try to dash through.
Ube moving in, Dragon Blade at the ready. Barrage coming in from ID doesn't get quite as much as he's looking for. Meanwhile, Icefelt versus AZK in the bottom. Loyal in a great position right here. And with Spree taking down Dahang, this is all but over. AZK versus the world, going to fall here on the point. Ube getting dash reset after dash reset to finish things out.
And he knows it, and he's happy. I just don't think you can spend Mercy and Pharah to try to deal with a Pharah and then not do it effectively. Essentially, Spree won that Pharah v Pharah, agree? When they fought each other?
There's no doubt about it. Spree was winning the Pharah v Pharah battle, and they invested a lot of resources in the ID there and didn't have a whole lot to show for it on that particular stage.
So you could have done something else. EZK could have switched to a 76 or a McCree, something to help out if you're just really going to be stubborn and running your own Pharah, but there's too much time spent in the air where he's not contributing to fights, and then it's not the better result of it. However, Ube now going to be on the Pharah, because why not? This is LG Loyal. Even though Spree just had a great game on Pharah, ID is going to stay on it too, so we will have an air battle. But if Team Liquid wants to take this stage and thus the map, they need to win this Pharah v Pharah because they're going to put Dahang on Mercy again.
All right, both teams looking here to get on the shrine early on. Icefeld, of course, being a little bit more respectful of ID's Pharah, although not looking at it now, so I might have to take that back. Spree, though, gets on the Rafa very early on. Rafa a little bit far out, but ID from the back takes down Icefeld. That's on Icefeld. He was looking in the very beginning and then got distracted, and as a result, gave ID that kill, and now ID's in position to pull this back here for Team Liquid. Spree takes 1. Who's going to win this Pharah v Pharah war?
No one!
Both Pharahs win, or both Pharahs lose. Take whatever angle you want to go. I'm more of a glass half full.
I think we just both said a lot about our psychology. They both win. I called no one winning. Regardless, that is Team Liquid winning the point here on 3rd stage of Nepal. Getting about 10% here as they will just reset, pull back, get healed up. And that was a much better life for ID, but he immediately switches off it on 76 now.
Well, getting away from Oprah-approved team fights where everyone gets a car, ID no longer going to be on the Pharah, as you have mentioned. Now looking to get in here on the 76, just holding things back. And this offense from LG actually very scattered on their initiation here. They're very split. Shatter just doing whatever he wants here in the back line, gonna take down Hedan without a whole lot of opposition. So that was just odd coming in from from LG Loyal.
Yeah, very odd. They were close to pulling it back over. They had 75% progress on there, but bullied out into their own choke instead. They will have a nice combination coming up anyway. If Hidan and Icefelt get there, the old Nano Visor could come in and play a pretty big part. Shatter's just dancing around. They've done a good job of keeping their flankers on edges so they know where the team is.
Look at how spread out LG is as they come into this fight. This isn't what you want early on, but the Dragon Blade is coming in from Shatter, looking for anyone, not getting anyone offhand, chasing a Tracer of all people, so not a very effective Dragon Blade early on, but does draw attention away. ID able to get on Fluke as a result. Farewell, Ube. Ube accepts his demise there, though. Would that even really kill Genji? I just feel like he would Cyber Ninja his way to a mountain peak or something to get back.
You've been watching me play Overwatch lately, and I don't think anything can kill a Genji, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
So, Team Liquid now 15% away from taking this round and the map. Last opportunity here from LG Loyal. Genji versus Genji fight in or the top. Shatter, a little bit weakened as a result. Now actually ignoring the honor fight, moving back the other way with Mezar, and they get Lucio as a result. But Icefelt, Tac Visor with the Nano Boost in or the top, finds Shatter early on and gives Loyal a bit of a positioning advantage in the point, but with him going down the Mezar, it's even again. 4v4, Mezar, Soundbearer out here from Team Liquid, trying to seal this out versus LG Loyal. LG Loyal very poked down here as ATK and Mezar are cleaning up the scraps.
This is where Mezzer does really excel on the Winston. This is one of his best stages at it, able to find his targets and clean them up. Just a Lucio, but not long for this world, despite his rollerblading activities. Team Liquid on the verge of winning 2 maps in a series, which has not happened for them so far.
Well, they're not just on the verge, they have won 2 maps in the series. So, Team Liquid in a better shape than we've seen them in all tournament long. And I gotta say, I do think the combination of having Shatter and now having Rafa there to back it up clearly has been more effective. However, let's also bear in mind the stakes here. If not for an incredible reverse sweep upset victory, this would be 2 teams that would be 0-4 versus 0-4. So let's not assume too much here about Team Liquid. But what we can say is that certainly for LG, this is rough. This is incredibly rough for LG Loyal, because if they lose this game here, which they are 1 map away from doing, the odds of them catching Complexity later on in the standings actually looks quite grim indeed.
You need to finish the tournament ahead of 2 teams to get in the playoffs. And right now, they're barely ahead of Liquid and on the verge of being tied with Liquid at the very bottom.
Yeah, and with the head-to-head, they'd actually technically be behind them at the bottom. And at this point, we're also looking at who's going to be getting momentum going to these final few weeks, because the schedule, there's still quite a few games left. This is going to be the halfway point for these teams, game number 5. And honestly, with the tumult that has been happening with Team Liquid's roster, if they can look good at all, I think that's a big plus for them. Another big momentous occasion for Team Liquid. I think this is the first time they've won the initial stairs fight on Sanctum. I'm gonna have to go. I seriously might go look back actually and see but they actually did it. And how did they do it?
Well, let me say this. It would have been very Liquid of them to lose the fight after dropping the Reinhardt into the pit to start things out. That would have been, if they were playing, there should have been achievement unlocked, just show up on the bottom. Lost fight after killing Reinhardt. But no, Liquid cleaned that up very well. It was a good opening coming in from ID. So, I mean, clearly, if you take out a Reinhardt for free early on, you're going to have to try pretty hard to lose that fight.
Yeah, and my question, because after that as well, Super Blue kept dying early. How much of that was he was out of position? How much of that was Team Liquid noticed that we can prey on this? This actually is a key to winning these fights, and how much of it was coincidence?
Well, when your Reinhardt's dying early like that, I don't think it's ever 100% the Reinhardt. So a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. He died 3 times there. Probably 2 of them were purely his fault. The one where they got knocked into just coming into their very own spawn room, I think the healing wasn't there and he didn't get the support that he needed. But 2 of them were probably he's a little bit out of position. I don't know, even the concussion, that's hard to predict.
LG Loyal's initiations, I'm going to throw away the first fight there. I think the first fight, that happens. But you look at everything else, particularly on Sanctum and particularly going forward, they were very disjointed when they were coming in. There was fights where we were looking at from a casting perspective going, wait, LG is really split here. This isn't going to work. And then, of course, it doesn't work. But when you're split out, what that does is that does give you more opportunities to isolate the Reinhardt in that moment when the team isn't coming to bear on you with their full offensive powers. So, I mean, maybe I'm part it's on Pluke. Maybe he was off the communication side of things, but we don't know. We don't know the comms. We don't know what's going on. All we know is that LG was split more often than they needed to be, and that's going to result in your tank dying more often than he should be.
And actually, it was Liquid in game 1 that they seemed like they were the team that was split up and out of position at times. And they definitely looked a lot stronger in this one as they brought the series to 2-1. The only other thing I want to highlight is we had some questions, and especially last week. We didn't talk about it as much this week, but your secondary and tertiary DPS players, how are they doing, and are they contributing? Are they pulling you back? And Ube and ID were 2 that we've talked about. Ube played an amazing Roadhog, I have to say. Wasn't able to pull it back in their favor. But then you've got ID on the Pharah. So who do you say is having a bigger impact from that kind of third DPS role? If you have
I don't think ID's Pharah has been frightening or intimidating or anything like that. It's doing okay in some moments, and I guess the way that they want to fight on Control now is just to keep scrapping, because you're seeing him get kills late in the fight, and they were coming back in on that. No longer are we seeing, not on every Control map anyway, of set your 6, let's go fight his 6, but especially on, I believe it was Village, he was getting kills late into the fight, and that allowed them to flip it over, and then they would simply stall it out after.
I'm not super sold on ID's Pharah here just yet. I mean, clearly when he's getting the assist from Gravity, it's phenomenal. He looked very good on Sanctum. Thank you, Gigantic Pits of Death, that you've put in your holy area for no particular reason. But aside from that, it's still not looking as good to me as other top Pharahs in the game right now. So even though Liquid was able to get away with it here, I don't know if I'm anywhere near as confident in throwing ID up against a Mangachu or just, say, trying to run it against a Rogue in the world, for example, where he's probably going to get thrown out of the sky immediately.
They're decorative, okay? That's you know, when you're in that holy place, you know, the how it feels is very important. So decorative pits, MVP for Team Liquid on Sanctum, I think is the moral of this story. But yeah, and looking at that fight, the Pharah v Pharah, ID will maybe kill your Pharah, but what's happening on the ground is what's more important. And a lot of times, Dorado is going to be the next map. Once again, selected by LG Loyal. And with how much Team Liquid has been favoring close-up engages, do you think Loyal has a little bit of better shot to bring this to Game 5?
Well, I think they're going to run a dive composition when they play offense. They've done that every single time. So even though Liquid has been running a close encounter or triple tank defense on occasion, I think that this, again, I think we've seen most of the picks here come down to, I don't care what the other team's good at, let's play what we're good at.
I will say this, there is no more Liquid map than Dorado in the sense of Liquid moments, which is to say they will get through first very quickly, get through most of second quickly, and then burn 5 minutes trying to finish out second or have some other terrible fate befall them. In theory, Liquid should not be as bad on Dorado as they have been in recent times, but I can't not remember the times where Liquid has thrown away huge edges on Dorado now. Maybe on some level, that glass half full there is saying, actually, they could play a lot of Dorado really well. If they just tweak things at the very end, they could come out and surprise us here and end this 3-1. But the cynic in me goes, all right, Liquid, let's see you top the net last time you were on this map. So,
see, I do remember better times in Liquid, and maybe this is why I've always been so disappointed for them, because I remember this map specifically to Hang and ID did combo up, and they won the map 2v6 entirely. The opposing team could never come out on them. They left 4 back on the cart, and they were at the end of the map when it was halfway through the map. So those are the days I remember of Liquid. Granted, that was, I believe, 9 to 12 months ago now.
Yeah, it has. A lot has changed, as it turns out, since then. But those players have not. They're still on the roster. And real quick, before we get into the game, I just want to give a shout out to Dehang. He has actually been playing really, really well. We even saw a few like clutch sleep darts and other plays, like a nade on King's Row. But I think that it would be remiss of me not to mention him as we're lauding these players.
He's been the most consistent player for Liquid forever.
For all the troubles that Liquid has had, Dehang has never been the problem.
No.
Period. He is one of those players where you would think with his long-time Quake history that he would have immediately gone the DPS, but he took on the support mantle very early on in Overwatch, and he's looked good on support for a very long time. So the fact that he's consistent playing well should come as no surprise to anyone that's been following the scene for any length of time.
Well, we're going to see what he can do here on Dorado as LG Loyal are trying to pull it to Game 5 against Team Liquid, as Team Liquid is up 2-1 in the series, looking for their first OCS victory. Let's see how these teams play on this map.
Well, Hex, the rustic streets of Dorado is where LG Loyal are going to have to make their stand. And again, for those who are just tuning in, this is not merely a series to be lost here for LG Loyal. If they lose this, they will actually, per tiebreaker, be in last place. Whereas if they win this, they have an outside shot of still getting ahead of Complexity and getting into the OCS playoffs. So a lot is going to be decided here by how they play on Dorado.
Well, the time frame of Overwatch is interesting. Who knows what is going to happen in the next 3 weeks? You never know if these teams will just completely disband or something by then. And we are entering the 3rd week of the Overwatch Carbon Series. But yes, a lot on the line, a lot to be lost for both teams in this scenario. As LG Loyal 1-3 entering this evening, and Team Liquid 0-4. But Team Liquid up 2-1 in the series.
You know, Hex, I gotta feel like there was an opportunity lost, and it's basically my bad vision that's doing this, but I definitely just read the L as an R there. I was thinking, LG Royal, now that would be a great team. They could put a little crown on the logo. It'd be sick.
Well, now if they do it, we're going to have to charge them a fee of some sort, a finding fee, a naming fee, I suppose. But I kind of agree with you. They could get purple jerseys, you know, purple, the color of royalty. Regardless, this LG Loyal team, the classic LG team, it's going to be running Mineral on Torb. Mineral, of course, one of the Lucios that will swap a lot of times. He's played Symmetra on this map, but they're preferring our Swedish friend instead.
Well, you take a look at the defense coming out here from LG Loyal, and they're putting a lot on the Torb. They're not running a Symmetra here, so it's not double builder. But if their turret goes down early here, the say AZK or someone else. Oh no, Icefelt under the pressure from Team Liquid as a deep dive coming in from the backline. Icefelt killed himself on the Winston barrier. Now they're down the heart of their backline. No healing from Heat, and oh, goodbye Spree. Liquid has dissected this LG Loyal defense, and AZK is picking apart the scraps.
Oh, I got so distracted by your talk of royal colors that I didn't even notice DeHang was on this Zenyatta. It's one of my favorite players to watch him on. There's always people asking who are the players to watch stream if you're looking to learn this or that. If you want to learn Zen, tune in to DeHang's stream. They are not quite there yet as the tanks will come out. Shatter is in the background. He's got a Dragon Blade ready.
Well, he does have Dragon Blade ready, and LG Loyal looking absolutely disheveled here early on. Here comes Dragon Blade. He is hit by the Bionade, so he has to be careful going in. One more swipe, does get Minerals, does not go down to that melee. Instead goes down to Hedan's melee, but Liquid with a pretty down position here on the cart. Loyal still with the opportunity to bring it back perhaps, and there's Nano Boost coming in. So Pluke going to be the one-man army here, trying to pull this back, and Liquid very well could let them pull this back as Icefelt picks up the double, or picks up the one. It's Diva and her mech.
Yeah, picks up both halves of the same one, as it were, and that is LG Loyal now stabilizing despite of some of the nice early picks. AZK is going to switch now off onto the Tracer as maybe the sight lines this far back aren't as good as the ones up front. ID about to have a self-destruct. We're going to stick on to Zenyatta as a Transcendence. It's actually helping Mez a lot with his dives, too.
Well, the Transcendence comes out here pretty early from DeHang. AZK, though, loses that Tracer v Tracer battle very decisively. Still, though, 5-5 in the point. Icefelt just getting bullied this entire game, but it's going to be Ube playing the role of hero now in the backline. Just grabbed DeHang. Soundbear coming in here from Team Liquid, though, so they're really investing everything into taking this fight here, X, but they're simply not getting the kills. Hedan able to outduel Shatter in the back, and it's looking like LG Loyal will, in fact, hold on here.
It has taken way too long to get any sort of kills on these dives. Rafa did get a kill there. Lucio will take down Hedan right there. But the big thing is they used everything. Everything they had up except for self-destruct. They tossed into that, giving up the economy advantage as Loyal will still have Gravitons. And we're getting down to it, ZP. A minute 10 left.
Liquid threw good money after bad after having an overwhelming advantage, after almost taking first on the very first push. And I hate to say they're playing Liquid, but we're going to see. Here comes the self-destruct, though, in from ID. Trying to open things up. Doesn't get anything early on. There is a sleep coming in early as Shatter now getting on the Hedan. Not able to finish off, getting a bit of a rope-a-dope here. Mezar is already out of this fight, and the defensive Graviton is in. Spree looking for a bit of fall through with Fluke. They get the fall through they're looking for. It's 3 kills. Shatter dashing through, but doesn't have much of a team to support Dragon Blade, even if he went for it. Under a minute now here, Hex.
Dive-style compositions are based on one simple thing, target selection and focus, and I've seen very little of it so far from Team Liquid as they're just jumping in. They're running all the pieces of a dive composition, but not focusing on a single target.
It just feels like they've been discombobulated since LG Loyal was able to bring it back out of nowhere, but final fight underway. Will Team Liquid be able to pierce through and get the first? Pulse Bomb comes in, does not connect early on. Hedan, though, really separated from Zero. No, Shatter goes down the Icefelt, not able to get the Dragon Blade out, and suddenly LG Loyal pulling this right back. 4 unanswered kills. Liquid looking lost here on this final fight, and it's going to be Loyal holding on in the courtyard here, Hex.
Started out so well, so promising, even there in a microcosm. Hedan out of position completely with his Tracer. Shatter's the one who finds him, but gets no help from his team, ends up dying in what should have been a gift from Luminosity Loyal. Here's our Ana, take it, and they didn't pick it up.
So I'm coming back to the idea that this is the most Liquid of Liquid maps, and Liquid is clearly cursed on Dorado because they looked great early on. It was a brilliant dive early on. Icefelt dies for free. Hedan dies for free. And with 76 and Ana both out of the fight, Liquid still finds a way of not winning the fight. Then they throw ultimates into a losing fight that they should have just saved for the next fight, and it was just a comedy of errors coming out from Team Liquid after a very promising start. And I've definitely said similar things about them before on Dorados, so I don't even know. It's not that there's not a logical reason because they're messing up in different ways compared to the past, and yet Dorado still seems to be a bit cursed for them because now LG Loyal with a great opportunity to bring this in and force a map 5.
After the first dive went so well, we saw nothing that looked like it again the rest of the map. They never were able to get the coordination needed to go back. Now, maybe that's AZK getting off of the Widow, which seemed to give them a lot of good pressure, but still on a Tracer should have been getting something done. But it seemed like their spirit was broken after they were unable to finish that first fight.
I gotta say, just look at the ships there. It just feels like an advertisement for the next season of Game of Thrones. The ships have finally arrived, Hex.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was going to say, reminds me a little bit of boats being beaten back. Those like the ending of Great Gatsby, but all right. I mean, different jokes for different folks.
I'm going with the pop culture thing that more people are likely to understand.
Well, I like books sometimes because I'm a super nerd. But yeah, totally excited for Game of Thrones, which I heard was books at one point too, but you know, that's for nerds. Anyway, on the defense here, Liquid not running anything out of the ordinary, running Divecom defense. Spree takes down Hang right away with his Pharah.
Bad day for Anas here on Dorado, to say the least, with Hang going down early. Liquid now going to have to find a way of pulling it back. And AZK and Mesmer, they do pick off 2, if AZK picking up a 3rd. So AZK doing work here for Team Liquid in absence of that Ana, but it's still kind of rough here, Hex. If you trade out, the offense is eventually going to get the better of you here.
Eventually, yeah, they are going to pick up some kills, but a lot of teams want to run up there and try to play it aggressive and safe, knowing that if they get pushed back, they're going to be able to fight again, and knowing the distance that they have, they can always reinforce and fight back there yet again. Divecom looks like they want to be rotating to the top on the offense here, going to try to take over stairs. Got to be careful, though. A lot of rockets raining from above. So far, no pressure. Deep dive.
Spree coming in. This is where his initiation fair has been great. Does find ID early on. 5v5 on the point, but Spree well supported. Moving to the back. Trying the takedown to Hang here. To Hang will fall. And Spree doing surgical damage here in the back line. No one on him at all. And creating an opportunity for LG, although with Hedan dying early on, it is going to force Spree back a bit. He can't be nearly as aggressive without a source of healing.
I need healing.
Nope, gonna get back. Just gonna try to avoid shurikens here. Does not! Wow, Shatter taking down Spree by clipping him in the ankle. The Achilles cut, and she falls down.
It just hit a jet booster there in the back. She went wildly off control. Very, very sad.
I kind of want to see that in comic form. So any of you animators out there, an out-of-control Pharah spinning around in classic cartoon style.
Well, Liquid holding on admirably here, despite the odds. They still have to hold for 2 minutes, so they're not really out of the woods here at all. But AZK darting around looking for an early pulse bomb, and Spree gonna fall early on here, the ID. AZK, pulse bomb connects, looking for a little bit more. Not able to finish off the kill immediately, but Winston now should be falling. Down goes Plukin. Liquid here, Hex, actually now with an outside shot holding, but they have to do it against the ultimates coming in from LG. Well, if they can withstand that tide, we'll see.
Well, let's say not just holding, this is full-on escort. If they hold before their time, they will win the map. This is not a first point kind of situation. So getting desperate now for LG, and look at all the ults we have banked up on both sides, but especially Liquid.
This is where it's going to come down to an ult showdown. If Liquid wins, they very well could take the map. Still, though, Ube has probably been a little bit more effective with the Dragon Blades, and Shatter has tonight at the very least. And Ube going around the back line, going to be sneaky here as he looks to put LG on the winning side. There he goes, moving in, going into the back on the Ana immediately. The Hang Guardian Troll misses the sleep dart, and here comes the Dragon Blade. Down he goes, dash reset in. 2 kills here from Ube, but the counter engage from Liquid is strong. ID picks up 3, and AZK's there at the cleanup. But here's the res coming in from Hedan. Is this gonna be enough? Liquid's still in a very dominant position, but can they actually complete it?
Well, they've got a couple of heroes still in there alive. Shatter taking down Hedan, though, is great for them. That should spell the end of this fight. Icefeld will take down ID, so perhaps while the next fight commences, he won't be there, but that is Soldier 76. He's got sprint. Mez did use a Primal Rage late there just to push them back. One last fight to see who wins this map.
Liquid on the verge of bringing this back. This would actually be nutty if they had an even better first point hold, and yet that is where we could be heading. LG down to their final attack to potentially keep their playoff hopes alive. Icefeld moving to the back line, has Pulse Bomb. Soundbearer gonna stop him at least for now. Throws out the bomb. Connects. takes down ID early on here into the fight. 5v5. Liquid now playing without their hit scan in the back. It's very even here, but the hang going down. LG perhaps a little bit further ahead. Spree, 2 kills, and now Liquid starting to fall here, Hex. It's looking like LG might be forcing a map 5.
2 kills indeed, and those were the crucial kills they needed, taking down both supports. If anyone can even get back here, it's still only going to be to stall out. Perhaps they can get a Winston over top. They got to find someone to get in here. Someone's got to get to that door.
Well, they're getting to the door right now. We do have the final bit of stall coming out here from Team Liquid. ID throws his body onto the point. Spree, uncontested, justice raining from above. Going to be taking down 2 before falling in turn. Shatter late to the party, the only one up. Dragon Blade versus everyone. Will it work? It will not. Super Pluke had the answer to that Shatter problem, and we are going to a map number 5. LG Loyal staying alive here on Dorado versus Team Liquid.
I got to say, I was not expecting a first point battle or first push battle as much as we did, mostly on the side of Liquid's defense. I did not expect that defense to be able to hold what LG had, even close to how well they did.
It was a valiant effort there by Liquid, and I think if Liquid had simply finished out first the way that they really should have, they would have gotten the second, and they probably would have won this map.
Very likely. ID is in here. He did get the shutdown ult that was on Ube partway through there. Regardless, though, 2-2 going into map number 5.
We've used Team Liquid or to liquid as a verb at multiple times
no,
here.
ZP has.
ZP has used it. I am going to be using it slightly different because I'm not going to define how you've been using it because I feel like that's pretty apparent. But I'm going to say that there's a new definition, and that is giving us hope. False hope, maybe, in there also, because there were some things there that at that last defense that gave us some false hope.
But Liquid's been doing this for ages.
I know.
The common criticism of Liquid is that
perfect
they make games close against most teams, including teams that are on the high end, and then they find new and innovative ways to lose. That has been the constant Liquid story for months. So on that level, they're not doing anything new there. And for Dorado, I guess new ways to disappoint after they gave us hope and then they still don't hold. I don't know. I mean, it's a Liquid experience.
The hope is there because they never get blown out by almost anyone, regardless of where they are in it. They're always in the middle of the pack. They're always in contention. They're at every tournament. But yeah, Liquid.
Well, I'll tell you, it's 2-2 now, and we're going to see if Luminosity can do that reverse sweep thing that they like to do so much, or at least once. And see if they can get a victory. And we're going into Hollywood as our final map. Do you think that this suits Liquid a little bit more than Dorado did?
I don't have the numbers with me, but yes, I want to say that Liquid has been better on Hollywood, but I can't recall, actually. Let me lean on you, ZP.
As far as that goes, historically, yes, they are better at Hollywood when they do pick up wins. Of course, they've been very rough at picking up any wins here in the OCS, so you could make the argument that it doesn't quite matter. But going this, of course, their choices were between Hollywood and Eichenwald, and they have chosen Hollywood here. Whether it's an advantage or Eichenwald, I mean, who's to say?
Hey, they've doubled their total map wins tonight.
Yeah.
Math.
Yeah.
That's some pretty good math for someone who couldn't count the points earlier on the control points.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate
But
that.
you're on point with literary references. Okay, I just want to say that.
Did you look it up?
You know what? He's
It's
also
pretty close to the last line.
Well,
It's not
also
perfect.
right now.
Yeah,
He's
no,
also on blast thanks to your last comment.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know what I was seeing. Liquid was playing so well.
Yeah, it's a little jarring,
It
right?
is.
Yeah. No, and I do want to say that we have got caster homework. I think we need to. I mean, Game of Thrones was a good start, but we need to get more current with our references because just because Great Gatsby was a recent movie, I know that you were referencing the book. Okay.
It was this recent remake of a movie. There was also a Robert Redford one not too long ago. But yeah, it's a good book.
Robert who?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You got to pretend like you're
talking
hip
at Twitch.
and
You
young.
gotta give people what they want. Kappas and the most up-to-date pop culture stuff. Don't go any deeper. You're just going to regret it.
See, if we could just make more really generic and maybe obscure anime references. We're not. Most of them are not. We're not going
Twitch
to be
chat
doing
gets
this.
that.
Yeah, some of them are.
And
anyway.
if you do get that and you're listening, please just serenade us with Vohayos. The army is real. Everyone unite. Do not bark them away.
Yeah, I thought that I would be bridging the gap for meme and pop culture here, but you're on a whole nother level there, CP. So
I love the audience. I love everyone that tunes in. And what can I say? I pander a little bit.
Yeah, but anyway, well, let's take a look back at Dorado. We didn't really pick it apart too much as we're waiting for Hollywood. I did actually have a question, and that is AZK was playing Widow on that first attack. And it actually worked pretty well for a second, you know? But why, and we've seen this previously actually in this series, but why does Widow work really well with Dive? Like, break that apart for me a little bit there.
Well, the reason why Widow works very well with Dive is that if you're worried about the Widow sightlines, you're not worried about the threats immediately in your face. Conversely, if you're worried about the Widow, you've now created big opportunities for other players to really get in on you, because if you're worrying about the Widow, maybe you're not seeing the Genji. The idea here is to throw so many threats at a team that one threat is going to get a really good opportunity because you can't possibly cover them all.
Pretty much if you're hiding behind, say, the fountain there on Dorado, Winston's going to come get you. And you can't sit with a Winston and have peanut butter and tea, I think was the reference. Yeah. So you have to move, and then when you move, you're going to get discorded and headshot, because they were also running the Zen there, too.
It was actually a cool view from the window there on the bridge of Widow sniping, and you just see, like, Winston just like chasing people around in the background, and really, I mean, it was fairly successful on that. It actually was successful earlier on the assault map where we had them on, oh my goodness, Temple of Anubis, and it has been with mixed success. Why did they swap off of that?
Why did they swap off of the Widowmaker in that case? It's actually hard to say, because they had early success. It wasn't really clear what Liquid was swapping to at the very end, because they almost had the point, and then it just felt like they still felt like they almost had the point. So we're just throwing bodies and ultimates at it, not realizing that time's running off. We're not actually getting the point. Oh, time is over. We've now been held at first, when in reality it should have been a very quick take of first. So I don't necessarily know that Liquid knew exactly what they were doing there when they did fail to take what should have been an early take.
Yeah, and honestly, somewhat of a Herculean effort in their second defense, as they set a bar for themselves, didn't they, Team Liquid, to try to defend, and they definitely did a pretty decent job, almost pulling it out. What do you think about their super aggressive defense? Is this something that you could take out even if your back's not up against the wall, fighting a little bit forward past that choke?
I think had they only been able to set the marker at the archway, you can't do it. But why these super aggressive defenses work is if you die early enough out there, or you only lose one or two, you have chance for a second fight. So it's not necessarily if we die up here, we're going to lose. And I think in that situation where they only had so far to work with, that sitting all the way back and giving all that free push already feels very bad. You're already giving up probably your chance to win, and you're just making it more likely the other team can succeed. So we've seen a lot of early defenses on several different maps, but Dorado's been the classic one where you can put high ground heroes up there, they can play safe and get picks early, and then you can always still fight in the courtyard again.
Again, that's where you think back. That's where Envy set the great trend of keeping complexity in their spawn, a time-honored tradition that many other teams have taken up in recent times.
So, yeah, I mean, you got to like the community jumping on board with such a prestigious mantle that they've taken upon themselves, such like keeping them in their spawn. I think Complexity might have other views on that. But breaking this apart a little bit more, we talked a lot about having 3 threats, 2 or maybe 2 threats for a couple of these teams. How have the threats from these teams been panning out? Let's start with AZK. I mean, how has he been impactful in this series so far?
Aside from the very early defense on King's Row, he's had a very big impact on the series. Again, I think you look at his progression, he definitely had a down few months. Now he's been keeping it up and being consistently good. I mean, there's no other way of really saying it. I think that if King's Row defense had gone better for him, the series could already be over and we wouldn't even be talking about a map number 5 right now. So we'll have to see, but I think he's been a pretty dominant person for Team Liquid. And when they've been doing well, a lot of it has because he has had big hero plays.
He's doing a good job on the Tracer in a lot of different ways, not only as you mentioned on King's Row. Also, his control tracer was very, very good, but also they're asking a lot out of him when they were in those Pharah v. Pharah battles. It used to be Tracer could do a lot more against Pharah because she didn't quite have the airtime she used to. Now he's got to wait and hit that perfect tracking for a while, or wait for her to come down, understand where that Pharah is, go find someone else, then come back. But they're running no other hit scan with it, and he was trying to put as much pressure on it as possible.
Yeah, I actually really like AZK and the changes that we've seen in him, and I think it's been enabled by the meta shift a little bit as well, because it used to be that he was the soldier that 1 DPS in the 3-1-2, or, you know, playing an off tank in the 4 tank meta, and while I was actually shouldn't even say this, he had mixed results on Soldier by himself, but now that he can play these secondary carries, DPS players, heroes, it just looks a lot better. Not to mention that I feel like Shatter 2K has really rounded out that roster. But let's look across on the other side, as it looks like we're about ready to go into Hollywood. Looking at LG Loyal, excuse me. We've been doing pretty good with that today. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Icefelt on the other side, as he's been the one playing Tracer for Luminosity.
I mean, for Icefelt, it's still for me is in the category of flip a coin. He's had good moments and then had moments where he has actually just been invisible. When you take a look at the control maps, there's definitely rounds of Team Liquid won where it was hard to tell that Icefelt was even in the game. Now, part of that could have to do with LG's initiation being spotty at best during that particular round, but it does feel like a consistent trend of inconsistency coming out here from Icefelt to some extent, and I feel like it's been that way for a very long time, Hex, for as long as we've seen him.
Which is odd because in this battle between AZK and Icefeld, it's rare that you'd say that AZK has been the more consistent of the two. Now, maybe his ceiling isn't as high, but I think it is. I think he can still play just as well. But, I mean, it's odd to say that AZK has been the more consistent of the two players because he hadn't been consistent for so long.
I think the thing about AZK, though, is that AZK is either he's playing really well, period, or playing not well, period. When Liquid wasn't doing as well, AZK wasn't showing up in any of the games, pretty much.
Yeah.
Whereas Icefelt actually has just more variance from map to map, round to round of the two players. So AZK has very clearly been doing very well throughout the course of the OCS, whereas LG, now LG Loyal, has been more hit or miss.
And I think that Icefelt's inconsistencies from like even fight to fight, but really definitely apparent from map to map within series, also translates over to Ube a little bit. He's been another one that's been a little bit inconsistent. When you look at the other side, when AZK and Shatter are a little bit more consistent in that they're either on a day or off a day, it definitely calls into question a little bit of what LG Loyal brings to the table.
I've been saying it since the beginning with Ube. Just play Roadhog. He's almost never had a bad game on Roadhog, and I think sometimes, as I've mentioned in the pregame, it's time to stop playing things that you think you want to fit into a composition or fit in that. His play on Roadhog throughout the tournament entirely has been his best hero.
In defense of the LG DPS here, at least a little bit, is when you have the scenario where you're saying, both Ube and Icefeld have situations where they're very hit or miss, that makes you wonder if there's more of a systemic issue there. Is it merely execution on the DPS part? Or is the entire team communication structure such that they do get discombobulated more often where everyone's not going at the same time, which leads to more situations where Icefeld is getting focused down in 1v3 situations? It's hard to say. We don't have insight into how their comms work or what's going on behind the scenes, but I will note that sometimes the answer can be a little bit more complicated than just, well, this player is hit or miss. Sometimes you could argue that the team coordination for LG overall could be hit or miss.
Right.
And this is why they've been somewhat of an enigma, but they need to stop being an enigma and start being something solid as they're coming in to Hollywood tied at 2-2 against Team Liquid. Both of these teams in the OCS are up against the wall. Both of them need to find victory here for various reasons, and both of them are going to be doing their best to bring this payload home. Take it away, gents, on Hollywood.
Well, we are on sunny, ideal Hollywood. We'll be rolling through the Goldshire Studios, which I think is a World of Warcraft reference. Again, I don't even know why I tried.
Goldshire was the first town you would run into after Northshire Abbey if you're playing human on the WoW side of things. So yes, it is Goldshire, very iconic town in World of Warcraft.
You couldn't just let me have my vague reference.
No, I actually had to throw that out there entirely because I spent way too much time in that video game. It was a great video game, but listen, these are things I know. Rip Hogger.
Oh, well, on the defense for Team Liquid, it seems like they want to run more tanks than they have, meaning 2 for the most part. Mezzer is going to be on Reinhardt. Shatter is going to play some Roadhog. I thought he had some decent Zarya games, but again, I think the big question for Shatter, I think it's a fair one, is how deep is his hero pool and how good is he at those heroes? What do you see there coming out from the attacking side, ZP?
Coming out here from the attack of LG Loyal, it's going to be focusing a lot on having Ube do his thing, but this time for Team Liquid, they're running the Reinhardt on defense. They're running Shatter on the Roadhog, interestingly enough, so Ube's going to have to worry about both the shield and the opposing Roadhog, so it's not going to be quite as free.
We've seen a mix of this odd aggression early on. Of course, I'm referring to ID being out here on the defensive side of things, and he's getting so much free damage into hanging able to take down Mineral, and now they have to worry about attacking from all angles.
ID's gambit pays off. Of course, he could have been jumped on in a huge uneven number situation, but no one looks at ID, and ID more than willing to turn it into a shooting gallery. And with the early first picks, it's just the rest of Team Liquid taking it out relatively easily, but the Soldier was definitely the problem there, and now ID probably got to be a little bit more reasonable and not be far out, because he would get dove on if he stayed out there for a second.
Well, he took some damage early on, but it was Dahang who had actually kept him very healthy. That sightlines working really well together, as they will fall back a little more and more. Standard ID going to try to rotate his way up to Cafe. Icefeld will likely be rotating his way to the high ground too. This is a battle you've seen on Hollywood since it was released.
Icefeld in over the top right now. Great position here for 76. Trying to win that 76 battle, and does with the aid of Hedan. It's going to be ID going down immediately, and nothing's on Icefeld here, and this is a recipe for danger here for the Team Liquid side. Team Liquid, they're trading out evenly, but if they don't get in the Icefeld, they're almost certainly going to be losing this fight. 200 health, nothing on him whatsoever. And the offense of LG Loyal looking like they might be able to transition this into first, as here comes Nano Boost on the Icefeld, just laying down the suppressing fire.
Well, a couple of nice kills there as the Nano Boost comes in towards the end. One tick already off the board, and it's very likely that Liquid will not even come and fight this back, and especially after they lose AZK. But AZK was able to trade. He took down Hedan. But yeah, Liquid going to back up and give up first point here.
The problem there came down to the idea that ID was stuck in a one-on-one against Icefeld. Icefeld was certainly getting more active support there from Hedan.
Yeah.
And then once ID went down, there was no one there to challenge Icefeld, so a little bit of a blind spot in the Team Liquid defense. We'll see if they can restabilize here in the Streets phase, but LG with a chance here to really put themselves over the top.
Well, it was 1v2, and I only say that because it's how good Hedan is to keep his Soldier 76 alive and then also get the killing blow on the target he's facing. He's so good at alternating. That's a nice pulse bomb. Is going to drop Mezzer right away. Rafa quick to follow as Spree's going nuts. This tech visor comes in very late. That's 2 ultimates burned out on that, hitting mostly shield.
That was very unfortunate execution coming out there for ID, but overall on the Liquid side, they were spread out to start that fight. They threw 2 ults after nothing after they lost their tank, and now they're just getting cleaned up effortlessly here by LG Loyal. Liquid looked lost on that defense. It was just everything about their positioning was wrong.
I could not have said it better myself. Everything going wrong there for Liquid, having to burn ults towards the end. They're going to be pushing into a superior ultimate economy now as they do rotate out. Finally, they can't give up second point for free when they've got this much time. They're already giving up a lot of ground.
Well, here's for Liquid. Their chance is going to be the sound barrier. Rafa going to blow it immediately. Only hits 3 people. Not the highest value sound barrier, to say the least. Again, Liquid perhaps not all on the same page here, but off the flank, they do get Hedan early on, so perhaps 3 was all they needed. They get 4 overall. LG not able to deal with that initiation, and again, it was a split flank coming in, which is why 3 people didn't get the sound barrier, and yet it still works out.
Having it still work out, though, does not mean it's great. I mean, even if you're going to split flank there, you wait half a second, give everyone the sound barrier. Regardless, they're going to get very aggressive here, having given up a lot of time. That is a nice deflex, going to keep the hook on cooldown. Mez is going to go in off of this.
They're going in. Ube goes for that very short ride, just smashed into the wall, bacon everywhere. 2 kills here from Team Liquid. And now this is where they're not really going to be going full hammers or selfless. They're going to back it up a bit, but space created here next.
Well, turning that room into a breakfast nook, as that's where the breakfast is currently made in the cafe. They're going to get a little poke in as they roll up top, but also not that bad of a situation for Loyal, because you look at how far this card is. They have a choice of if they want to go through main or rotate around right, and they've got a ton of ultimates up. But Liquid finally bringing it back. Spree takes down his counterpart early, though. Nice deflex start on the top. Beautiful sleep dart.
Ube going to be taking snooze here, and here comes Shatter diving in. Dragon Blade up, gets absolutely nothing off it after the kill on the Hedan. LG still with a dominant performance here. Sleep dart or no sleep dart, and Team Liquid not able to find a way through, and this is almost certainly going to cost them second. Now, they might take the gamble here, Hex, where they try and defend second, but that leads to feeding more often than not, and maybe Mezar can land good Earth Shatter, but this is going to be very risky, and Hex, they're going for it. Mezar diving in, looking for an opportunity. Spree goes down early on, and Liquid might have found a way through.
Well, Spree was able to pulse bomb Shatter, but this is Liquid bringing it back. No one is watching ID right now as Icefeld tries to get on the card alone. He's just going to get down there and reset. So Liquid holding 5 meters shy of second point, 90 seconds left. And given how long this map is, EP, we might be going into the last solid push for LG Loyal, depending on how quickly the fight goes.
I think LG has 2 attempts at this if this doesn't go super, super long. But I will note that Liquid took a huge gamble there, and it paid off. A lot of the times we'll see teams just throw bodies in there for no reason. LG was not able to punish them as they came through that doorway. Now, next fight here is underway. LG coming into point on multiple flanks. Spree and Reinhardt on the right, the rest on the left, and with Ube taking down Rafa, there's good opportunity here. 5v5. You do have the attack visor coming from Icefeld. No, he gets sliced down in his prime. And now LG Loyal in a very rough spot here, Hexes. They're going to be down to their last fight.
Well, they split up, and Super Pluke found himself bionated, and they were able to clean that up very easily, largely because Dehang had been holding on the high ground. That's how he was able to get the grenade behind the shield. And now this late chase, not very good for Loyal, but we did mention, unless it goes really long, they'd have a second point. And since it went all bad, immediately, LG Loyal will have another chance at this. Spree will have a pulse bomb up, but look at this war chest of Liquid.
Liquid has completely turned the tables here. They have every advantage in the world. And Shatter just needs to be disciplined with this Dragon Blade, and that could be all that's needed to pull this in. And that was a risk he didn't need to take there.
Yeah.
That is not the risk you take when you have this many ultimates up here. Make LG come into you. But here comes Dragon Blade. Moving here for the 76. Looking for one final swipe. No, he gets juked out, but what's going on? ID. Tac Visor on the top has taken down Hedan and Mineral. No more supports left here for this LG squad, which means no more life to give, as they will get poked down and removed from this payload. Team Liquid get a hold here right before second.
Good awareness there by Shatter to see the soldier coming in and chase him down, so he was never in ideal position. Even though the Dragon Blade didn't kill him, he did it so he could get that other dash reset, so he'd be able to chase him down. He did just that. Icefeld never got into the position he wanted, and as you mentioned, meanwhile, ID had been throwing down his own tactical visors. So, as bad as Liquid looked after first into second, the stabilization out of them, pretty impressive.
I still gotta say, I don't like how some teams run final fights where they have so much in reserve. Shatter very easily could have gotten picked off there, just peeking the Roadhog.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Because here's the thing about that peek. What are you doing off that? You get a little bit of visual information, but if you die, suddenly your ult advantage means far less because it's a 5v6. It just, I mean,
he had deflect, but it did seem to me, and maybe it was just the animation on our end, of it looked like it came out after Hook would have hit, had that Hook been on point. So, yeah, I mean, Genji's one of those characters you can peek with, but I agree. There's no reason to take that chance because they lose him early in that fight, and then 6v5. However, they had a ton of ults. Worked out for them in the end. That is the bar for Hollywood. If Team Liquid can get it further than their defense allowed, pretty much all the way to second point, they will be taking the map and the series.
Well, you take a look here at LG Loyal and how they're defending here. They will be coming out with the early Torb, and they're putting a lot of faith into this here, Hex, because oftentimes Torb defenses can get crushed early on, and for LG Loyal, the problem is they don't have a whole lot of room for error here. They really do need a first point hold to maximize their chances of taking this. If it goes in the streets phase, them actually holding back Liquid becomes far dicier.
Well, I suppose the Torb worked well on Dorado for the times they were running it. Mineral runs it more often. I don't know. I tend to agree with you, knowing that Liquid generally is going to run these triple divers in anyway, and also usually with a Pharah that the turret's not going to get a great deal of value. But if they can win a first fight and get a Molten Core up, that's when it becomes an entirely different story.
Yeah, I would say first fight, probably first 2 fights. They have to withstand the first 2, and then it actually shifts far more into their favor. But
look where they have to hold because of this, though.
They're holding very far back. Team Liquid's going to get their choice of where they want to stand here. They can invade both Cafe and top, and now they're going to have perfect opportunity to just dive in when they want to. So they're going to wait for Mezar's cooldown to come back up here, and that's going to be a signal to go. Shatter and AZK are going to dive in. Mezar diving in, drops the shield, and now they're actually not diving in as hard as you might think. Shatter taking his time. AZK's in the back, and with the turret going down, maybe now they'll dive in, but they're slow playing this more than I would expect.
I think they were just definitely looking for that early pick onto the turret at the very least.
Well, they're moving in right now, and LG trying to fight this right back. ID and Mezar are down, so as sloppy as it might be in the back, it's working out somewhat here for LG. They are coming ahead on trades, but the pressure is still certainly there.
Defense will entirely hold that, get everything reset up, and this is where Torb becomes very dangerous. 97% onto Molten Core. He's going to have free reign to build it up however he wants, and he's going to start chucking armor around. Hoop Super's got some armor, Spree's got some armor, making everyone very difficult to kill, though. Mineral begging for healing. There he goes, finally gets it.
Well, we're going to have Molten Core versus Dragonblade in this next fight. Don't forget the Resurrection, too. If Dahang is able to stay alive, it will give second life, which is a pretty big deal when Molten Core might be the thing responsible for killing multiple people. But here we go. Fight is underway. Liquid coming in off the flank, Shatter coming in up the front, and Shatter going away up the front as the Poker's going to remove him from the equation. And now don't only Molten Core here. You've already got one pick. This is not necessary. They're throwing so many ultimates into this defense, Hex. Congrats, LG. Well, you won the fight, but you already won it without spending a single ult.
Yeah, well, 2 minutes left. I think he panicked because his turret got very low. It was at 66%. Of course, he could only Molten Core a level 2 turret to turn it into a level 3. Gave himself a little bit of survivability as well, but I tend to agree with you. That was throwing a lot of ultimates after you get the pick, so made no sense to me.
I'd say they turned that into a winning fight for Team Liquid because now Team Liquid has a huge advantage going to this next fight. Shatter still holding on to Dragon Blade. Now he has to pull the trigger, though. Team Liquid's been very tentative about going in. This is their time. They need to go in now before Dragon Blade is part of the equation. Shatter still looking for the perfect Dragon Blade, but that barrage comes in over the top. ID takes down 2, and just like that, it's going to be Team Liquid taking control at this point. Mineral trying to pull it back. It's a double kill as Torb. His Rivet Gun shotgun pretty powerful, but the Resurrection going to come out, erase the mistakes made, and Team Liquid should take this rather easily.
Well, the Torb play at least did force some more ultimates out. Mezzer had to pop his to stay alive. Resurrection had to come in there where it looked like they might have been able to simply win that fight only with the barrage that came in early. It was a nice barrage. Now, I honestly was trying to anticipate the calls of no one used, we just won that. And then Torb coming back in forced them to use some stuff.
It did, and again, I think the problem there for LG, you could go back and look at that fight. Normally, for us, we try and match the intensity of the game, and usually when one team wins decisively, we're pretty excited about it. I just looked at that last fight from LG in disbelief and like, why did you do this? You already got the hook kill. Why? It's like Molten Core's like, all right, they did do that. Oh, Tech Visor, you really did need to do that. And then they were just bone dry for the next fight where Liquid had plenty of ults in their favor, and they didn't even have to use the Dragon Blade.
Molten Core especially to me, because I find it an ultimate that a lot of teams won't even fight against. You're putting 800 HP onto a turret, which is a lot. You're putting 600 on your Torb, so a lot of times you hear Molten Core, and maybe that's what they're trying to do, trying to bait it out, but that fight was over without any ults just because of the hook, I thought.
Right, and we are getting to a point in Overwatch where you can pretty clearly say that a team loses a fight while winning a fight. If you invest 4 ultimates into a fight, and then the other team invests 1 or none, oftentimes, unless it's the final fight of the game or something where it was a no-brainer, it's hard to say that you've truly won because you've spent so much to try and take that one fight.
Yeah, you're keeping your eyes firmly on the battle when you really should be thinking about the war, and that's one of those mentality leadership things that you need to solidify as a team is who's making those calls. Because first of all, somebody needs to be making those calls like, hey, we're going to use this ultimate, or, hey, this is the circumstances, so we're going to use this ulti. And it didn't seem like they were on the same page there. They did win that fight, though. We have to give it to them there.
It would have been very bad if they had lost that fight. That's something I would expect out of Classic Liquid.
But we're back.
Or NRG.
Why miss a chance to take a shot when you can, I suppose. But that first point is now over as we are coming off the pause, try to get you reset here, but the battle rages on. ID over top, gets a lot of damage, gets healed early on. Shatter still has this Dragon Blade of all things.
Well, he's been holding on to it for a rainy day, and we'll see if it does work out well. Does find Hedan early into this fight, no Dragon Blade required, so suddenly LG, even though they're holding far up, they don't have no sustain to really maintain this, and they're going to fall rather easily here. Shatter going to fall another life without the Dragon Blade, but this means he could use the Dragon Blade to win the game, as that fight goes very much in Team Liquid's favor.
I feel that Rafa has just recently discovered the power of right-click, as he's gotten so many kills with it so far. Of course, a very aggressive Lucio, but I've never seen that icon in the kill feed more than I have watching Team Liquid play. Great positioning for them now. They have a Resurrection too, so it should be time to get aggressive. Maybe Shatter will finally unwrap that Dragon Blade.
At some point, man. Maybe it's just a vintage Dragon Blade who wants to resell it in the black market later, but finally the Dragon Blade comes out, immediately takes down Icefelt, looking for Lucio, makes it a good one. 2 kills coming out here from Shatter, so his Dragon Blade when it does come out, it's a success.
Beautiful.
And Dahang going in for the kill. Resurrection coming up. Everyone from Team Liquid back into this fight. And LG Loyal on the verge of being defeated by Team Liquid here, Hex, and falling into last place in the OCS. Liquid on the victory run.
Dragon Blade definitely worth the wait. They're going to try to get ID over top for a barrage.
And the ID right now looking to just take out anyone coming through this window. There's the barrage. Mineral immediately take him down. But here comes Ube in over the top. Dugs out ID. LG not out of this here just yet. Actually going to be pulling this back. So Team Liquid not quite on the victory run they were hoping for. And Hex, time-wise, they still have a decent amount of time here left remaining, a minute 32. So that's going to give them 2 final attempts to push a payload not very far.
They did use everything, though. It's been endemic of some of these fights that teams have lost. They throw everything at it and still don't get it done. But as you mentioned, two fights very likely incoming. So Ube has rotated off. Spree onto the Diva is an interesting pick. Very likely to deal with tac visors, things like that. Also to take this high ground that Liquid has definitely prioritized.
Good right now, coming in over the top. Mezar, first one in, ID in over the top. It's Liquid swarming in for all sides, and the pulse spot connects! Hedan out of the fight! ID at the fall through, 3 unanswered kills. Team Liquid about to win their first match here in the OCS, destroying the hopes and dreams of LG Loyal. Last moment, Diva self-destruct coming out here, does not connect. It's a last bit of stall here, however, but Liquid on the verge here. Access Mezar gets the final bit of cleanup. ID's right there. You can stick a fork in LG Loyal because they are done. Team Liquid going to pick up their first win and take 5th spot here in the standings in the OCS.
Good for Liquid. I never like to see a team with a 0 on the board, I guess. I'll say it. I'm happy to see him win. Not anything against Luminosity, not anything against LG Loyal. I just don't think any person should play 5 games and get 0 wins. Just don't. Don't think anyone deserves it.
It doesn't look good, but from the LG Loyal perspective,
Yeah.
this is the opposite end of the spectrum. In week 1, they were about as high as you could be because they had defeated Immortals when no one expected it, and we almost thought right then and there that we would have secured them. And yet here, they lose to a revamped Liquid team, and now it just looks far less secure future-wise for LG Loyal.
What's this negativity coming in here? You know, that team that you've always believed in finally showed their, their stuff.
They got to win.
They got to win.
Good for them.
Oh my
Happy
gosh.
for them. There's no more 0 on the board.
Wait, how are you going to ever be happy?
They're 1-4. Let's live in reality for half a second.
We can revel in the moment, though.
I gave it a brief moment.
We're bringing it right back down to real life, though, real fast.
Kill some of the most passionate fans of teams that would love their team, that would bleed and die for their team, also will be the most critical. Have you ever talked to a Cubs fan before they won the World Series? Have you talked to a Jets fan ever? These are real phenomenons. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I have talked to a few, and we've talked about that.
Or a more relevant esports example, a Team Liquid fan in any of the other games in which they play in.
And this is the thing. That's kind of it's a weird. We'll have to. There's a lot of theory crafting to be had for their org, but
as an org, they're basically the Cleveland of the esports world.
And yet everyone still believes in them. It's beautiful, and they have some performances like this. But let's talk a little bit about this last map. First of all, Shatter on Roadhog. How did that pan out there on the first point?
Shatter as the first point defense, it didn't look particularly great. It wasn't, when you see Roadhogs have really big games, you saw Ube, for example, back early in King's Row, or you think to what Agilities does. Shatter's Roadhog play, not quite on that level, though Team Liquid's defense in general was a little bit shaky across the board. So I'm hesitant to say how much was Shatter. I do like the idea that they wanted to come out the Roadhog, perhaps recognizing that it would put more pressure on Ube on that first attack. So I don't disagree with the idea. I just don't think it was worked out super well for them.
Unremarkable, I suppose, would be the best answer. But we do need to see Shatter on other things. We saw him on Anubis, and he played Zarya, and of course the grab was good, but he had died 2 times just previous to that, didn't play it all that well. His Genji is still very much here, and everything else seems to be below that, and even a question mark on where that is.
And we haven't seen very much of those other heroes. Even when we see Zarya and Roadhog, he's on it for maybe 1 point,
Right.
and it's either, oh yeah, we had a good play, like a good grab, or maybe it didn't work out as well. Unremarkable is a good way to put it, but I do want to talk about his Genji and his support of Genji, in fact. Earlier in King's Row, he had a couple plays where he is diving in front of teammates when at perfect times when he knows someone's in danger. So talk us through how Shatter has been playing that support of Genji.
I think it's a great thing to do. It's something Shadowburn used to do very often, where you never saw where Shadowburn was coming from, then all of a sudden you're eating your own Graviton out of nowhere. He did it a couple times too, where his team got Gravitoned in, and he would leap into the Grav and try to get his deflect up.
I'm going to take a more practical approach to why Shatter has these instincts in him where he goes in and protects his teammates with deflections. He's well known for being a big streamer. He plays a lot of ladder. You have to do this to protect people at ladder from going too far out when you're not on the same page. So the idea that Shatter is used to protecting people to carry his team above and beyond, well, it shouldn't come as any surprise. He does this all the time on his stream.
Does he carry you? Is that where you're seeing this?
It's very possible he could. I have been in games with him before. My only placement game I played, I was in a game with Harblue, and I actually directly caused Harblue loss because my internet went out. It was looking good, and then I apologized to Harblue, and he tells me later, it's like, oh, yeah, you were like the third person to DC that night. It was a bad night. I was like, sorry.
Yeah, ISP problems. It's a tale as old as, well, it's actually not that old. Internet's pretty new, but time as far as many of our viewers are concerned, maybe.
The tubes have been getting clogged since the old days.
Those intertubes, the blag. Well, let's talk about Icefeld versus ID then. The 76 versus 76 battle, because you had mentioned that, but who ended up winning in that one, if you can remember?
I suppose ID, but through no fault of Icefeld's own. He had Shatter chasing him down most of the game. Shatter was definitely trying to ruin Icefeld's day. ID was able to get around. I mean, the one specific fight I'm talking about is towards the end, where they had two flankers go around, and then just after Shatter almost died to a hook he didn't need to peek, he saw out of the corner of his eye that Icefeld was running around trying to get high ground, chased him down, popped the Dragon Blade just to deter that. So I don't think it was really a 1v1 battle that happened too often, but I guess ID a little more consistent on it, mostly because Icefeld had to deal with the Shatter problem.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, I think Icefeld was under more pressure, as you say, but it is worth noting that the few times we did see one-on-ones between the two, Icefeld definitely had some good success, probably no more evident than that early defense on Hollywood, where we're talking about the Shatter issue there, but really what happened is that the rest of the defense was under pressure. ID lost in that fight versus Icefeld, which was, I guess, a true 1v1 thinking back on it, because Icefeld did have more support going into that, but it did lead to a situation where Icefeld had all the room in the world to work with, and is why LG was able to take that first point.
Well, I'll tell you what, no matter which way you slice it, even though this was two teams at the bottom of the rankings, it still was a very exciting match. And we are starting to see the evolution of some of these teams, in this case, mostly Team Liquid, as they really need to find any little bit of momentum. And this was the time to get it, facing off against the struggling LG Loyal team. And they were able to find it, and they have tied them up in the rankings at 1 and 4, coming out of day one, game one of week number 3. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to have the other side of the bracket, so to speak, playing as the top-ranked Luminosity Evil. I know that we're going to talk about pronunciations a lot for other things, but I think this is the important one. And versus they're going to be facing off against Immortals here in just a bit. Let's go to break.
What a great bio game to back line to hang.